What's the best Volvo SUV and which one is the right one for you? Here in our comparison episode, we're going to take a look at all of the Volvo SUVs, starting with the biggest ones, the Volvo XC90, recently facelifted, versus the Volvo EX90, the big electric one, versus the XC60, versus the XC40, versus the EX40, recently renamed XC40 as the electric one, versus the smallest one, the EX30. Which one would you pick? Which one would I take home? Let's find out together. Let's go.
This here is the updated Volvo XC90, and it is a very special review also for me because 10 years ago I presented this vehicle here when it came in the new generation. Such a long time. With this update here now, is it still up to date? Can it match the competitors or even be better? And the second most important aspect is this is not a pure electric vehicle, and Volvo was planning to go all electric, but now they saw, like other manufacturers, yes, EVs will be playing an important role in the future, but not everyone is going EV yet. So they still need to offer mild hybrids, also plug-in hybrids, so something where you don't need to rely 100% on external charging. And that's why we have this XC90 update here. So yeah, indeed, the Volvo XC90 is not done yet, but how good is it now? We'll find out everything about that with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the updated front. Is now a cleaner look than before. The grille here, with the new design, it looks now a little bit more alike, when you compare the design of the new models. But I think it's a very cool and cleaner Scandinavian design. Thor's hammer is called here the daytime running light signature. You have it here, and also standard for the main headlamp unit that you have now the Matrix LED in all base versions. You can get this bright design here with the chrome accentuations. There would also be a dark look available actually. Denim blue is this vehicle color. We also have a bright dusk vehicle, for example. There it is. It's also a very beautiful color, isn't it? In any case, the length is 4.95 meters or 195 inches. And news also on the technology side. First of all, they improved the noise insulation. We're going to test it also here on the motorway. Behind us here, you see this huge bridge there. This is a bridge that is actually connecting Sweden and Denmark across the Baltic Sea. We'll also drive that here for you here today. This is basically a motorway on the bridge connecting the both countries. Pretty cool actually. Wheels from 20 to 22 inch. These here are the 21 inch wheels, and we also talk about the comfort choices there, because talking about comfort, you have a new base suspension. We have it also spec'd here with frequency adaptive dampening. That is a passive adaptive dampening. That means, like, depending on the frequency of the of the shock, it's reacting differently. So with the span of comfort and sportiness. And this is then not equipped with the optional air suspension, which you can get for around 2,500 euros. But I think it's a great chance to test a more or less base-spec'd vehicle. There are some extras in it, but usually the manufacturers only give us like the highest spec vehicles because they want to show off what they have. But even more interesting, that we can test this one here for you. How does it react when you don't have the optional air suspension, not the highest engine spec and so on, because there are also some updates with the engines coming up. In the rear, typical large glass design, and there you can see that this car is older because, like the base form of the car is older, because all the new vehicles, they have like these really super tiny windows where you can't really look through. And here you can still see this was built to have space on the inside. And the typical vertical lamps here by Volvo. So interesting that they did some notable updates already from the base facts and exterior features and suspension and so on. There will be more changes coming up on the interior, of course. Turning indicators here in the front, they replaced the Thor's hammer, so that is a cool design. And in the rear, the turning indicators, very interesting here, this new structure. So this dot design, yeah, I think also a nice idea, isn't it? And recently, by the way, we have presented to you the EX90. That one is the all-electric version, so it means they'll go parallel. So this one then for the combustion engine side, mild hybrid and plug-in hybrid. The EX90 then the full electric one, so they can offer both to the market. And to be even more specific about the noise insulation features, being specific, that's the thing we do here on Autogefühl. So these general dampening measures, like more foam on the inside of the vehicle to reduce the noise level, is for all of the vehicles, like standard equipment. Optional, then you can also go for dual installation of the windows, and there you can see it, and this is then an optional pack for around 1,000 euros. And it is actually, I can show that to you, not only in front but also here in the rear. There we go, that you have this dual layer, so both front and rear windows, and that is again a 1,000 euro option. We have it obviously here spec'd with this vehicle here, and then we can comment of how much more silent it is. And frequency adaptive dampers are a thing at the moment in the automotive industry, so what we have here in the new base suspension. And they have adapted similar technologies also with other brands and so on. So how do they really work? So when you have, for example, like some cobblestones on the road or like uneven ground, these hydraulic cushions actually are a little bit softer just by physics actually. So they even out these small uneven parts of the road better, so giving you more comfort. However, if you are suddenly quick in the corner, if you're driving sport here, then this hydraulic cushion reacts a little bit stiffer to actually even that one out better, that the car stays more upright and that the wheels work underneath the vehicle. Let's take a look under the hood. Yeah, first of all here this opening mechanism to unlock the hood is a little bit weird, but has always been. And it's interesting also how wide it opens. Here, like you can only close it when you grab it at the side. Also very well dampened here underneath. So you have two basic choices, either the mild hybrid engine or the plug-in hybrid. Here, this the B5 mild hybrid engine, or the B6 is also available. B5 with 250 horsepower turbocharged, or the B6 with 300 horsepower turbocharged plus electric supercharger. It's quite interesting. And the acceleration figure for this one here is 7.7 seconds. The European version, 7.3, the figure for the 60 miles an hour figure. So, and then the B6 would be a second quicker each. And the B6 is not available everywhere. It's quite funny, for example, in Germany, we only get the B5. The B6 is only for the police, like for special orders and so on, when they hunt some Lambos on the on the German Autobahn, for example. Yeah, and interesting here with the mild hybrid engine is that you now have the Miller combustion cycle, and this is supposed to improve the efficiency. Of course, we'll also test drive that one here today. The all-wheel drive distribution here with the mild hybrid engines it is still like a front-wheel biased platform. So most of the time you will have front-wheel drive. And when you push it really hard, or when you have like traction loss in the front, then also power is sent to the rear wheels, but never that much actually. With the plug-in hybrid, it's a little bit different. First of all, it's more powerful. So you have a quicker acceleration, just around 5 seconds, because there you have power from the combustion engine and the electric motor at the rear axle. So the all-wheel drive with the T8 then with the plug-in hybrid is also done with the electric motor at the rear. This is a very different concept, and that means when it's driving electric, it's a rear-wheel drive one. However, when you have the combustion engine, then it's more distributed. The combustion engine powers the front wheels, the electric motor the rear wheels, and then it's in many situations kind of even. Even if the battery is completely depleted, you will still have like a buffer in the battery, and then you'll still have like all-wheel drive when you need it in like off-road situations and so on. So that's still okay. The thing is with the plug-in hybrid that the battery has been updated 2 years ago, and now they haven't done another update, so it stays at 14.7 kilowatt hours net, and that is in comparison to the competitors a relatively small battery than for a plug-in hybrid. Now to the interior, where the key fob has not been updated, and I think that's sad because yeah, it's not my favorite one, but it's also not bad. So then again, door closing sound. Oh, so I think okay. In the rear even a little bit better, and yeah, you still feel like these are really large doors, classic style. Then inside of the doors, that's pretty nice. Here you have this leatherette surface here on the top part, soft, also nice touch, and then different stylings for the interior decors element. Here, beautiful matte wood. I love that atmosphere, really cool. Soft enough for your elbow right here. And also here this covering, this leatherette covering of the inside of the door pockets, well done. We hardly have that anymore actually. Also this entry sill badge and steering wheel also with a new animal-free material. And yeah, it's really good, feels nice. You still have real buttons here also at the steering wheel, one left press here to deactivate this speed limit shine, more of this decoy element, and also this leather red dashboard. It's really thick and soft, beautiful atmosphere. These are here the so-called herringbone fabric seats, and they look actually quite cool. And I can just recommend them actually because they also stay passively cool in summer and are also getting not cold in winter. The alternative would also be a Nordico high-grade full leatherette. That is also available. We had that in our studio episode, for example, and both are good in comfort. I would actually probably prefer the fabric seats, but some prefer the high-grade leatherette that you can also wipe things cleaner, easier. Optional, they still offer animal skin. And then here on the front passenger seat, 189, 6'2", enough headroom left. Steering wheel itself, the column up and down, in and out. Yeah, and you have this typical full-size SUV comfort, good seating position. Volvo also has great ergonomics of the seats, you know, and for tall people it works very, very well. And since we recently had many vehicles which, let's say, are more in the coast-cutting directions, even in the premium segment, I just want to point it out here one more time that this dashboard here with the high-grade leatherette is standard. It's not like a 5,000 euros extra or something like that. It always looks and feels like this. So, and that is really well done and is another sign of that you can pay attention to details. You can make it animal free and more sustainable. And you can really appeal to customers who are car enthusiasts and who are looking at details. That's who we are, at least me and probably you as well. And also at the inside of the doors, this one is also standard. It's not an extra equipment. You also have this soft leatherette covering here. And for example, when I use this bottle here, what you hear is that you can hardly hear anything because it's not like flying around in a hard plastic area, you know. So it's really good to have this covering of the inside of the doors. And I think this is maybe something what this vehicle can set itself apart. Yes, it is not the newest one. It has not the newest technology, although with this update, it is now more modernized, but with these details here, you can appeal to customers who are maybe missing these details in some of the newer cars. Here in the cockpit overview, the key to this update was how does it still look Volvo-esque, like Scandinavian living room atmosphere, but at the same time, how can you implement some updates that it's really now up to date? And I think they mastered it here quite well. Then here you have fabric inside right there, different stylings possible, and the matte wood atmosphere here. Once again, this is also real wood, by the way, different colors available. That is beautifully done. You now have a new touchscreen here. Before it was more integrated but smaller. Now it's bigger, so they had to make it like a pop-up. Then again, you can better access it. It's an Android backend as for this. We're also going to take a detailed look here. Yes, you do not have separate climate knobs. That's maybe something I think is missing, but it was before the same. And you only have like this volume knob. That was the same, you know, like play and pause and the volume control. And then here you can also optionally get this crystalline shifting lever. Inductive charging pad in the front is not cooled, so the smartphone is prone to overheating. Matte wood here also cover for the cup holders. They are also adaptive, and then a lot of space here underneath. This is also where you put your smartphone for charging or for the connection, because the Apple CarPlay connection is wired only. For me, this is actually not a problem because I prefer the wired connection anyway. It's more stable and also the charging is better. The phone won't overheat with inductive charging, so I'm actually fine with that. But we're going to take a deep look here as well anyway. Then the steering wheel itself is not too big, so relatively small for such a big car, but I think it's actually cool. And they also worked, you know, on the configuration. And here the panoramic roof, so you can actually still open that completely. It's a really large one. Option, of course, so that's then the full opening. There we go. And then you can also apply a shade if it's like a very, very sunny and hot day. So there we go. Yeah, it comes from behind. Also nice, you know, with this tip there. So I feel that the build quality has also been improved here. That's what I at least subjectively feel. Also here you have a nice headliner from the inside that goes all the way until the inside of the A-pillar. Indeed, I have the impression that they paid attention to some details that some other manufacturers don't pay so much attention anymore to. So I'm really, really happy with the first impression of the interior. Or what do you think about this? By the way, to stop the engine, this is this small one here that has remained the same. You move it to the right to start or stop the ignition or then the engine, of course. And still classic stalks here for the wipers and all for the indicators. So this is more like this classic setup. So the only thing that is missing to me is really like the physical interface for the climate unit. This has all gone to the screen, but it also was the case before already. Then the driver POV here once again with these buttons you can really press, and the instruments look like this. When you start up the engine like that, you can have the map view in the middle like this, or also clean, so you can choose that. And then there's also a head-up display available, another speaker from the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, and then the infotainment, this vertical layout and the Android background. So it's like actually easy to read. Here the Apple CarPlay integration with the cable looks like this. So it's a nice integration indeed, so that is still working. And the lower part in here, the climate unit has this 2-layer setup. You have to press this and then the temperature. Yeah, they said it is easier. What they found, I think it's more complicated. I mean, this is a good overview also for the steering heating and the seat heating. I just feel like when I'm driving and then I have to hit this and then this, I think it's too distracting. Yeah, voice command is also possible, or someone has called me. Good that we have on non-disturb mode here actually. Yeah, I mean, you can get along with it, especially when it's stationary, no problem. But I think there needs to be an easier solution to switch it like while driving. And then here you can go back to the normal menu, and some vehicle things you can then here access there, and also these settings here.
It's a little bit slow.
Yeah, it could be a little bit quicker, right? The responsiveness you see here could be better. And what's also cool, you have Google built in, so you have Google Maps as standard, so that's very well usable. So there you can make it smaller or bigger. So it's always cool to have the real Google Maps as the standard infotainment system. And where can we open the glove box? Ooh.
Not in the screen, but there.
There we go.
Oh, a nice sound.
Oh, Jew. About the sound system. Wow. This is
So
awesome.
nice.
This is awesome. Yeah, this is the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, and we can just say, I think it's my favorite one ever in a car. I mean, I'm often getting these questions about this, and this is really amazing. Here, 19 speakers, even more speakers in the EX90, but here in the XC90, 19 speakers. You can also adjust something. At the moment, I have this mode of Gothenburg Concert Hall, which giving you like this.
19 speakers.
That's also nice, right? So here we have this echo 3D surround sound. I just love that. And you also have a separate Bowers & Wilkins menu like here. And then you can, for example, select this Gothenburg Concert Hall, or more the studio, more like a clear sound, no matter, what you prefer. So that depends. And they also can have some like experience things that you can test the sound system. They recorded special songs for that then, that you can get the full potential of the sound system, because it's also always about the source you have. So it begins. Rear part here. Which movie quotation was it? Put it in the comments. I'll talk about it later. Then here, inside of the doors, we also have this nice leather red covering, and there's also, there we go, here, sun cover, and then really beautiful matte wood structure also on the inside, so it's nicely done, soft here as well, and also like the inside of the doors has also a cover from the inside, so that's beautifully done. Then we can slide these seats here forward and backward like that. Isofix is on the outsides, each here on the second row. You can fold on this here for some cup holders. Yeah, that's actually fine. Now this one, like, I think we had that problem before,
in the
right?
studio, it was,
Yeah. So like, sometimes you have to press it twice or 3 times, but like the rest of the folding mechanism is fine. This one here also to fold this part, and you can also see that, the lower part slides forward as well by that. So it's a very cool mechanism, definitely. And you can also slide all of these Come on. There we go. Individually forward or backward. So you have in the EU also a 5-seater setup. Then there's, for North America, you only get the higher seat setup, like a 6-seater or a 7-seater setup. Here in the EU, you can pick between both, like 5, 6, or 7. This one, in this case here, the most interesting one, the 7-seater setup. To fold the seats, you use this handle here, and then it goes down like this, and also the head restraint goes down. So they really thought about this. Top tether here in the back part, by the way. And then the alternative to access the other row is here on the top. Then you have this access, slide it forward, and then you can actually see the third seating row, and no ISOFIX on the third seating row though, so that would have been good, definitely. But then, as for the general seating comfort, here the leg room to the seat as I am driving, there's still some leg room left. Also nice cover here at the back part, also headroom with one A9 602, so there's enough space, but you feel that you sit quite high. It is more a children mobile in the rear. You have enough space for tall adults, but yes, but you feel that how they set up everything is that there is still a third seating row and that there is still much trunk space, and there was not the biggest emphasis of making this space in the second row larger, and also that you sit quite high and upright. So let's say there are cars that have more base comfort here for the rear parts. This one here is really the focus that you can fit many people, and you can also here change the angle of the seat, a little bit more upright, more backward, like this. Yeah, but overall very versatile and also good quality. And I also like the fabric seats here for the rear. Here, by the way, this integrated child seat is also always nice, and then you're also more flexible. So here, if you just need like a little bit more height, when the children don't need like a full child seat anymore. But now the question is, does it make any sense here in the very back? So I mean here, like the space I would still have here, I could maximum go like this forward or something like that. I can also put this one a little bit forward, then we can compare it. And when I now enter the back part, like this, and then I see the comments popping up, Thomas in the third seating row here today. Let's go around. Also took off my shoes that I don't make anything dirty here. So, and when I'm sitting then here, well, headroom is no problem, that works. And legroom, I would say, yeah, like the thing that the couple of centimeters, like an inch, I moved this bench here forward. This did the trick. So I can still sit here. It is barely possible. Yeah, maybe for a shorter trip, but of course the normal use case would not be that you have 7 Thomas in the vehicle, but maybe 1 or maximum 2 Thomas. There's just 1 Thomas. Yeah, and then, you know, like the soccer match or something like that, you know, and that you can fit some children here who don't need child seat, but who are not that tall yet. So overall, once again, also really flexible here. Let's check out the trunk or the boot. There we go, electric hatch, and then we have this cover here, and like by that you put in, and like this, then you slide it to this. This is also possible, like this half opening, and because this is also potentially a 6 or 7 seater, here it goes also above that, and then you have here the seat belts secured like that. Yeah, it looks a little bit weird, definitely, but then you can put it in like this, that you can actually still use this top cover then here. The cabin trolley also fits in and it stands upright like that. Here, this one is at the moment in the 5-seater setup. So the length, almost 1.30 m or about 50 inches. That's pretty cool. Then the height here is about 78 centimeters or 30 inches. And the width, also pretty cool. This is amazing. Like, it's more than 1.10 m or 43 inches. So very, very well usable. This is old school SUV space. And then these are some additional mats. You can also turn them around to have like the more rugged atmosphere here, so you can clean them easier. So this is all possible, but of course you do not have to use them. It's an option. This is the second one. And then you can see when I remove them, there we go then with the additional seating. So, and there, this one has to be removed first, like this, and like that. There we go. And for that here, for example, to secure a backpack, that's always a clever thing. And you can fold up this whole thing for even more clutter underneath. And there's also this towing hook here. So it's, let's say, semi-retractable. There we go. And let's see, well, I can Yeah, I can pull up the seats from here. So if I'm just reaching out far enough, it is actually possible like this. And even then you still have some space right here. So it's like 60 centimeters or 23 inches. So very versatile. And well, the folding them back again here, this is actually easier. Then the head restraints go away like that. Now we go for the folding workout. Like this, really practical with the folding head restraints. Like this, and they fold really flat. Pretty cool. And look at that. Yeah, this is a space monster. And the total length then to the front seats there we can, I mean, look at that. It's even longer than 2 meters. So it's like 2 meters and 10 or like, yeah, it's like over 80 inches. This is Thomas's driving lounge with the Volvo XC90 in this update here. And yeah, this is really actually an emotional ride for me because it's been 10 years since I've done this introduction of the vehicle. And it comes the heart from Leah. Yeah, so for a car enthusiast, these can be very emotional moments because, you know, I've also did some great trips with this vehicle and so on. And it's been such a long time. And it's the first major update here for this one. And wow, I mean, for so long that the car is on the market, that's really remarkable. And it's still selling, actually. And that is... That's also one of the reasons we're doing that here today, to try to find out, is it still up to date, and especially here with these new changes. So first of all, the steering feel, you have the rather small steering wheel actually, and the feel itself is rather soft. You don't need any force. Leah would like that. She prefers that when it's not too hard to steer. It is in the standard soft setting, extremely soft indeed. But it's not that it would be dead. It's just that you need to turn it a little bit more around. And then you can change it here to a firmer setting. Then you have a little bit more resistance. And I actually prefer that. And also, for example, if you just want to change the temperature here, you always have to look at it, what you're doing. So not the most practical thing to do here. U-turn, it's actually quite decent, right? So that was good. So you can get along with this one also in the city, although it's of course this full-size SUV. Here with the firmer steering wheel setting, yeah, I feel more comfortable. It's still soft, you know, and it doesn't give you, let's say, the sportiest feeling of the vehicle, but it's also not the like the main intention of the vehicle actually. And very, very interesting here is today, so hardly ever we get the chance from the manufacturers that we can also drive some, let's say, base or mid-spec models, because they also want to, hey, like that's what we have, like the highest spec vehicles and so on. That's why I'm taking another tour here around. So this one here is the base suspension, which now gets frequency adaptive dampening. That's a passive adaptive dampening. So it reacts in according to the impact of the shock absorbers. And I cannot control it here, you know, that they're just having this one setting, but they're passively adaptive. That's then the difference, whereas with the adaptive air suspension, you could actually control it. And we wanted to find out if that's actually fine to go with the base suspension. And so far here, when we're driving slower here, or like city traffic, it's good. And in the air suspension, actually, yeah, you can control it, but it's also an extra feature, 2,500 euros, so do you need to pay that kind of money? So now, first of all, acceleration, we go from 50 to 110, here with the B5 mild hybrid engine. Let's go. Plop, that's it. I think it's fine, yeah. So, for example, in Germany, we can only get this one. The B6 is already available also in the United States, for example. That would have a little bit more power, same base engine. This one here now, mild hybrid system with the update. That means when I'm on the brakes here now, I can also gain back some energy. And at the same time, I also have some kind of electric boost. So more power, yet more efficiency now with the mild hybrid system. So they're using like this small battery buffer then for this one. I think it's a good step also to make the car more modern. And I think also the crucial point is the plug-in hybrid, the T8, has not been updated as for the powertrain, but these here have been updated. So they more profit from this whole update thing. So far, I feel the suspension is doing a good job. It's not like this floaty air suspension ride. You feel that you don't have that. But I wouldn't say that I miss the air suspension here at this moment. Here driving like 90 kilometers an hour. Blind spot monitor here. When I also hit the turning indicator, then it's also flashing, as an extra warning. Okay, look at that, it's an EQC. Rarely see that them. And then we can also set the cruise control. And we can also decide if you want to have just the cruise control or if you want this active steering assist. And here, actually, the car is also keeping me then in the lane. In the tunnel, we can also see that ambient lighting wise, that's not much going on actually. A little bit here, But they upgrade that as well. Here so far, not too many overcorrections from this, active lane keeping. And we're here in the tunnel, so the almost 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, and it's not too loud. So noise insulation wise, good job. There's also one thing they did here with the update. They said they want to keep the noise level a little bit lower. And what's soon going to happen is we're actually here under the Baltic Sea at the moment. We're connecting Copenhagen and Malmö. And we're actually emerging from, we are under the ocean now, basically. Under the sea. And now we're going up, actually, on a small island, which is in the middle of the sea, because they use that one to where you come out of the tunnel and then it dissolves into a bridge. So very famous building or construction. You can already see it here on the map. Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? So this island has been there before, and then they kind of adapted that one and used it actually for that, because otherwise the bridge need to be even longer. So yeah, that's a pretty cool thing, isn't it? And yeah, here now when we're going to this, there were some huge system covers. There you feel sometimes a little bit more from the suspension there. We also have 21-inch wheels mounted here, so the large ones. Yeah, so that's of course not the most ideal for the comfort, let's take it that way. Here, acceleration from 90 to 110. That's it. So yeah, I think power-wise, definitely enough. So can't complain about that. Do not necessarily need the V6 engine. And see here, lane change, for example, it's good. The car is keeping it upright. Back again. Yeah, here now the steering wheel to firmer is better, I feel. But it's not that I would have a unified feeling of the vehicle. But definitely I have to say, if you go with the base suspension and also with the base engine, I think it's fine. I don't like it when the cars are always super high spec that they get so extremely expensive, you know what I mean? Now we also see here the large bridge there. That looks cool, right? And it's also nice that you can watch it here on the map. Here, by the way, when you press here in the lower part here, also while driving, then the map becomes even larger. And I've been discussing with the UX manager why you have this two-step design here. So they really said that if you have plus minus here, people didn't hit that good enough, so they wanted to make it larger actually. I have to say I disagree. I would like to be able to change the temperature here, plus minus easier, and not click something and then click it in here. Of course, one thing would always be temperature 22 degrees. Oh, well, it's already there.
All right, changing the temperature to 22 degrees.
Let's make it 23. Temperature 23 degrees. Oh, no, I didn't press it. Temperature 23 degrees.
All right, changing the temperature to 23 degrees.
There we go. But I think it's just easier when you can do it, with just pressing a button. Yeah, but that's all software thing. They can actually change that if they want to. Here at 110 kilometers an hour, so 60, 65 miles an hour, still reasonably silent. So these noise dampening measures, they paid off. Maybe at some point we can also do a German Autobahn test where we can also hit the top speed, which is at 180 kilometers an hour, so 112 miles per hour. And they do that for political reasons mainly, because Volvo has decided that that's their maximum, and that's They don't want to go faster. Only Polestar is allowed to go faster actually. also here because of environmental reasons, and it makes it also in a way easier for a manufacturer because then they don't have to care about things that happen above 180 kilometers an hour. You know what I mean? Also really nice here, this covering from the inside of the A-pillar. So I feel this new feeling here in the updated version is indeed more premium and also very competitive. If you think about also like the large German premium SUVs, we feel comfortable. These fabric seats here are also doing a good job while driving.
And the seat heating is...
Seat heating is really strong. And also like here, when you go for the seat heating or the steering wheel heating, I love steering wheel heatings. But if you put it to level 3, it's like burning away everything. So I think it's cool. So you will even feel this is now we're in Sweden, by the way. So we were just in Denmark, now we're in Sweden. So you can actually use the steering wheel heating with gloves, and you would still feel that. So yeah, very comfy ride here, definitely on the motorway already. Now some more slower driving in the city again. Here also like a speed hump. Yeah, it's actually fine. I mean, for more comfort, you could stick with the 20-inch wheels, so not go for the optional 21-inch wheels. 22, I cannot recommend at all, actually. That will reduce the comfort too much. Here, let's drive through some potholes, and I think it's really fine. So here, I find that the difference will not be, do I stick with the base suspension or do I go with the air suspension? If you want to rule the comfort setting a little bit, stick with the smaller wheels. I think that's even more important because the suspension itself is actually fine, and also you don't need to set it up. It's always in the same mode. You cannot actively control it or something, but that's actually fine. If you feel, let's say, kind of discomfort, it would only be in these potholes on the road, or some transverse joints. But that feeling is then more connected to the wheels rather than to the suspension. So I really have to say, it feels more elaborate than before. I also, even though the steering doesn't give you the most connected feeling, the steering feels better than in the previous pre-facelift. So I have a better feeling for the vehicle. It feels like more one if you compare it to the pre-facelift, definitely. So a good step there. And although this driving part was never like the most special thing with the Volvo, if you compare like with Audi, BMW, Mercedes, yeah, we also have things to criticize there. But then usually the Germans, they convince us in the driving part because they're fun to drive, they're connected to drive, comfortable yet sporty and so on. That wasn't the Volvo specialty. It also was always giving like this Scandinavian living room atmosphere and like just the relaxation and so on. But here they really stepped up the game in the driving part. I would actually say that maybe it's even better to stick with the base suspension because that one gives you a more connected feeling to the road without losing too much comfort, So I have to say, I'm all the way in for a base setup here of the Volvo XC90. Maybe Volvo doesn't want to hear that on the one hand because they have less margin on the vehicle then, because you are buying a cheaper Volvo XC90 then. On the other hand, it speaks for the vehicle when it's already working in the base setup and you don't have to go for like the highest spec and so on. Here, by the way, also when I go some like right and left at lower speeds, it's actually fine. Car is not shaking up too much, and yeah, as I said, there are cars which have more connected steering feeling, but it's definitely an upgrade to the outgoing model. And that's really astonishing. Started the driving part with, hey, it's been 10 years and this vehicle is still working, and I have to agree, it is working. This facelift was utterly needed. I would really say like the outgoing model, yeah, here and there you feel and that's like an older vehicle. But here now with the slight upgrades, with the new infotainment system, with the new steering feel, the new base suspension, also
interior design.
Yeah, interior design.
Nice,
Yeah, we really feel very cozy here. So we could very well imagine going on a longer trip. The fabric seats, if you can get it in your market, by the way, are really nice. Probably the best choice also for the vehicle because they are passively cool also and passively not cold in wintertime, for example. Good comfort here. Really like them, and it conveys like this Scandinavian living room atmosphere, premium surrounding, and you can just relax while driving. Yet at the same time, it feels a little bit more modernized. It's calmer than before, and the engine gives a little bit more power, more efficient, and so on. So I think a very, very, very good update. They didn't do it over the top, didn't change everything. I think the T8 needed a change, definitely, yes. Bigger battery, they didn't do that. So that even more speaks for the setup we have here, because here then you profit from the updated suspension, you profit from the new steering set and so on, from the infotainment, and you also profit from this updated engine, whereas with the T8, the driving impression will be more or less the same pre-facelift and post-facelift. Yeah, better noise insulation maybe, but that's it. But here, in the base spec, the difference between the outgoing model, the pre-facelift, and this facelift here will be larger actually. So that's another argument here then for our spec we have here today. And actually it's always a good result when I don't want to stop driving. You know, some cars say like, okay, we do that for testing purposes, and then yeah, okay, it's done, let's move on to the next one. And here I would say like, I can just move on and, you know, keep driving, and we go somewhere nice places and so on. So that's really, really cozy. So what does the passenger princess say?
I agree, yeah.
She agrees.
Thumbs up.
Gets the Leah thumbs up, so that's always a good sign for the vehicle, definitely. Consumption, we could score actually exactly the official WLTP cycle figure, 9 liters on 1 kilometers, so like 26 mpg US, 31 mpg UK. Pricing, so on the European market, will be around 80 to 100,000 euros. US market is always a little bit cheaper, the VAT is off, but in general the cars are cheaper in the US, so we'll be more about like 60 to 80,000 US dollars. We don't have the exact prices for that one yet. So it is very competitive, definitely here with the facelift. And I mean, they have done here and here some little things. I think it looks still cool, gives you a very clean design outlook on the exterior and also on the interior. Then especially with the updated animal-free solutions for the interior, very high class, yet at the same time no using of animal sources, just some options there. And the driving has also been updated, especially here with the base suspension and also with the base engine. I think it very well shows that you do not have to go for the highest spec vehicle. I think as it stands here right now, it works very well. This is actually a dream spec. It's not too expensive, yet at the same time you profit from all the changes they have done here to that vehicle, and you get all the comfort and luxury you need actually. So this one would indeed be a spec I can very, very well recommend. So yes, although the base car is still pretty old, it is still very competitive, a very likable competitor here in the full-size SUV segment. Yeah, full-size for our European taste, definitely. Just on the plug-in hybrid side, not really competitive anymore because the battery size is actually too small. Unless you say you don't really use it that much or something, you just get it for taxation reasons. But I think in this case also the mild hybrid engine is maybe also a nice choice to go for. What do you think? Tell me your comments about the XC90. Today we're driving the Volvo EX90 and going to find out, is it a worthy electric version of the XC90, so to speak? Do they have anything in common technology-wise? And can they conquer especially the Northern American market with this one here? Everything you need to know with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. Front, here closed, all the way EV look. Vapor Grey is this very vehicle color. We also have a sand dune color here for you too, which I also find pretty cool. Then the headlamps here in this typical Volvo design, but now a little bit more segmented in this more modern look. And here the daytime running light continues in the lower part, vertical. This is then where the turning indicator appears indeed. This color here, by the way, it's not a matte color, but it appears to be a little bit matte, so to speak. Then the length here, 5 meters and 4 or 198 inches. So for European taste, a full-size SUV, for US taste, a mid-size SUV. 5, 6, 7-seater options. US 6 and 7-seater will be standard. In Europe you can get a 5-seater. In Asia you will soon also get a 4-seater with executive seating. So different setups for different markets. Soon onto the interior. Wheels 22, maximum 22 inch. These are also the biggest 22 inch. And very interesting here with this white contrast and also these aerodynamic inserts. Then you have a standard suspension from the low trim levels, and optional a 2-chamber 1-valve air suspension. It's also equipped with this very vehicle here. You also have some settings on the infotainment system. We'll talk about that when we drive it very soon. Then towards the rear we have the typical vertical orientation of the lamps here for Volvo. Looks modern as well, and when you hit the turning indicators or hazard lights, then it's like on the inside from that you have the yellow appearance then here. It's also looking pretty fancy, I feel. So yes, it does remind us from the visual part of the Volvo XC90, and we will also present a Volvo XC90 facelift to you very, very soon here on this channel, or maybe if you watch that video at a later stage, it's already online and we will link it. So on a technology base, these are really two separate vehicles. This is the all-electric one, the EX90, and the Volvo XC90 with plug-in hybrid and mild hybrid petrol engine. This is more than the combustion engine version still, and they will both exist on a parallel basis, only that the XC90 will never have an all-new successor. So it will still run, then parallel, and at some point then this will be the thing, because on long run Volvo will go all-electric. And speaking about electrification and so on, you get two different battery sizes, and we're talking about the net usable battery sizes here. So the one is 107 kilowatt hours net and the other one is 101. And then you might ask yourself, wait a minute, for 6 kilowatt hours difference between two different battery sizes, that doesn't make any sense. You know, why would they put this effort? And for the customer, it's hardly any difference, honestly. And this has a regulatory issue, because in the EU, you need to be under a certain weight threshold to register this car as a normal passenger car. And then they need this entry-level version, which is a little bit lower in weight. And from that battery module, they basically put out one module, and then they can actually have the whole normal registration, homologation, and so on. So it's more a regulatory issue. And then they say, hey, let's make an entry version, make that a little bit smaller battery, make it rear-wheel drive, and also then slower in the acceleration, so it will be above 8 seconds in the acceleration figure. And then we have, for example, this version here with all-wheel drive. So it's then one electric motor in the rear, one electric motor in the front, and then you're either below 6 seconds or below 5 seconds, even in the acceleration figure, to 1 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour, when you have the performance version, which we also have here. The performance version is just a software tuned thing, and then you have 1 second quicker in the acceleration figure. And of course, we'll also accelerate this one out here for you very soon. Always in the video description, in the comments, also mark it. We also have all the facts and figures condensed for you if you want to read them later on. Charging port is on the other side. In both cases, the battery size are not too different. Yes, they have a little bit different peak of 250 or 235 kilowatt, but it will both be 30 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge than at the quick charging station. Of course, these are then the optimum figures. I heard that here, especially on the like US market, it's sometimes a little bit harder to find these really, really high power fast charging stations. In Germany we have a couple of these, yes, but these are always like the optimum conditions. Realistic range, and we'll update you with a concise test consumption also after our extensive drive, then later on, once again towards the end of our video. It always depends, of course, on the outside temperature and so on. Heating the battery, there is a heat pump standard, yes, but when it's really cold, it takes a lot of energy to bring the battery to the optimum temperature. However, when it's really hot and you use the AC, that is actually not such a problem for electric vehicles. So we've also done some tests ourselves, and when you use the AC on an electric vehicle, it takes about 1 to 1.5 kilowatt hour per hour. And that's actually not too much. So when you're stuck in a traffic jam in summertime, it's really hot, and you let the AC run, you should not be afraid that your battery gets drained and so on. This is not the big issue at all. It's rather an issue when it's super, super, super cold. Then it is less efficient. But we hope that the heat pump will also serve a good purpose then here, especially for the Scandinavian markets, where this car will also be sold. Soon also more about the prices. And while I open the front hood for you, some more technical information. First of all, the batteries are NMC technology. And if you have the all-wheel drive version, the front motor, that's like the additional one. But the strange thing is that there is an uncoupling possible of one electric motor, but then it's the rear one. So just to get it again, base version, rear-wheel drive, and then when you go for the all-wheel drive version, it's also the rear motor that can be uncoupled while just like rather steady, slow driving for better efficiency. And the reason behind that is because the rear electric motor has a torque vectoring possibility, and that's why it was for them more useful to use that one also to uncouple it. Yeah, usually it's the other way around, but I mean, sometimes it's the way it is. And then the question is, when I open this one, is there a frunk? Yes, there is, and not too small actually. So I guess you can put things in every compartment. Yeah, I mean, this does close it here, so yeah, why not? And really large here for the water refill for the wipers. And look at that, this is an inbuilt funnel, so that's actually a very nice idea, isn't it? And another special feature, look at that. So the headlamps are being hidden behind the daytime running light. That looks really cool. Do I find this feature cool and useful? Well, it looks cool, but I think it is prone to failure, basically. So I think it is an overcomplicated technology, so I'm not a big fan of it, you know what I mean? And technology-wise, by the way, LED optional matrix LED then on the options list here for the main headlamp unit. And look at that in the top part. If you wonder, is it where you have like a taxi sign or Uber or Lyft or something? Maybe your personal name or something, or maybe like a slogan. Well, they have the slogan like Volvo for life, but why do they have the slogan right here? Because this is here another sensor type. This is the LiDAR, so the laser sensor. And you know, Elon Musk has the philosophy that they say, hey, we get rid of all the ultrasonic sensors, we do camera only, because he personally thinks you only need cameras. In reality, it's just cost savings. But the reality for real, from a technology standpoint, is the more sensor types you have, the better. So camera sensors for visual, ultrasonic sensors, especially when it's foggy or something, and then LiDAR for even higher range. And the best thing for assistance systems and actually recognizing what is the surrounding around the vehicle further on for autonomous driving is, of course, when you have all the set of sensors. And it's really astonishing that they put the LiDAR sensor as standard equipment, because that's a very expensive technology. So interesting to see it right here. Visually, of course, it always looks a little bit weirdo. So yeah, I would find it pretty cool when you can just individualize it with maybe like some light slogans or something, or maybe if you want to overtake someone that shows like, you know, like go away or something. So you access the car just because it's registered in your phone, or you can also have this key card, but that's like, then you have to like put it here, then press it, and it's just too complicated. It's just like a fail-safe thing to use the key card. They really think that you should always use your phone for that one, actually. By the way, it is built here in the United States. We're in California today, but this one here is built in Ridgeville, South Carolina. That's also their strategy, of course, to avoid import tariffs, because their parent company, Geely, is a Chinese company, and if they would build it in China only, then they would have to pay a lot of tariffs and so on. So yeah, I think it's also a good decision here to build it also for the Northern American market in Northern America, in the United States. Later on, they will also build in China, but then just for the Chinese and the other Asian markets. Let's take a look here at the door. I would say it's okay, the door closing sound, nothing special. When you press your thumb here, by the way, these door handles here, they're then more or less flush, they fold in. Then you just hold your hand here and they come out. Then rear door closing sound. That's more solid. We had a couple of cases of that where it was actually better that way, right? Then inside of the doors, we have here a leatherette, also with contrast stitching. Then you have two different sound systems. There's like the high-end Bowers & Wilkins sound system. Then for the window levers here, so this is like the front one, and then you press it here, and then you switch to the rear one. That's how it's working. And the lower part of the door, this is also covered here with the leatherette, so that's a good thing. So not only black plain plastic, just the outside part right here. And then EX90 entry badge. And what is also special here at the inside of the door, this is a new QR code, and you can scan it with your smartphone, and that will be mandatory by 2027. They already have it here as a first manufacturer. When you scan it with your smartphone, it tells you all the different battery components and where they're coming from and so on. So it's another good transparency thing, actually. Then cockpit here, steering wheel. This is also an animal-free material. Really good quality, feels nice. These buttons here are capacitive. You see here is one whole button field. We have that hashtag capacitive BS because I prefer real buttons, but at least they do give you a feedback here, definitely. And yeah, see here, this is also the volume control, for example. 3 different seats. These here are the fabric seats with a 30% wool share, 70% then of the fabric from recycles. So this is one solution here. Depends on what you like. So the alternative would be a high-grade leather red, which is, I think, looks also pretty cool. Either completely closed, or that one, the high-grade leather red, the Nordico, is also available perforated together with a cooling function, with active cooling. And that's why I also would go for the Nordico high-grade leather red. It is the softest material. At the same time, you have the active cooling, so you're both fine in winter and summertime. And to me, it's also a little bit more comfortable than the fabric seats here, but the ergonomics itself is actually pretty good. These here are rather firm, the seats, you know, from the bolstering, I would say. You can lengthen here the top, this top form here. Yeah, so overall, typical SUV seating position. It's also pretty much comparable to Volvo XC90. And by the way, they also use more recycling materials in this vehicle. Even the Nordico high-grade leather red seats, they contain a bio share from pine oil and also recycled materials. And headroom here with 189, 6'2", still some headroom left, although this one here is then this panoramic roof. You cannot open it, and there's also no electrochrome function and so on. What you can order in the configurator is like a hardware cover you can clip into the inside of this glass roof. Might be a solution for really, really hot states. G-Class 63 AMG in the similar color spec. Would you rather go for that one or choose the Volvo EX90? Tell me in the comments. Now we arrived with the cockpit overview, and it's really beautiful, really clean Scandinavian atmosphere here with a matte real wood. Beautiful in this really bright trim. I love that. Of course, different stylings are available. And then the leather red cover is also soft and plush. So has a very nice first impression. 14.5 vertical screen layout. Also pretty clean, minimalistic. This is where you switch the gears. Here for drive, reverse like this. You also have the camera system, and P you press here on the left side. So good to have still store columns. And also a small 9-inch digital instrument cluster. Soon more deals to that in the driver POV. Then we have the middle console here, once again with the soft leather red here. Yeah, it's also really nice for your elbows. So sometimes these areas are too hard, and that's not good for traveling, but this is really, really cool. Well attached. Open this one, more space underneath. There is this split here, however, I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe it's, for some it's maybe too deep. I don't know. Yeah, there we go. So, and then we have here once again this wood atmosphere. You can slide this one open for adaptive cup holders. They are nice. And here for the volume, you still have a manual interface and also this play pause button. Inside you also have this honeycomb structure that's beautifully done. And in front, inductive charging pad. And this also cooled. That's a good thing, because then the phone cannot overheat that easy. And here in the front we have USB-C chargers if you prefer cable charging, and more space right here. And does it work here with the sun visors, or the sun blinds? Yes, it does work. You can extend them for long highway travels depending on where the sun is coming from. And it's a really long extension here. Although in that case here, usually we have like this small arrow symbol. You have maybe seen on our channel already, but this time they didn't use the arrow symbol. But yeah, at least when you watch our videos, you know that this vehicle is capable of that. Driver POV, here once again the buttons at the steering wheel. This one, for example, changes the digital instruments. I mean, the feedback is quite good from the buttons, I have to say that. And also the visualization on the small digital instruments, cool. And they move together with the steering wheel, actually. Then you also have a head-up display right there. There we go. And if we move over then to the infotainment system, so vertical style, the climate unit is in the lower part right here. And that means, and this is strange, before you could just like minus, plus, or blue and red. And now you have to click once. And then you have the pop-up menu, and then you go for plus, minus, and yeah, for everyone who uses it to change the climate here while driving, that's not a good solution, I feel. Here it's relatively easy for the steering wheel heating and for the seat heating, however, that's okay. Yeah, but once again, physical climate dials are always better, I feel. And then this two-step atmosphere, I think, is not that clever here. Yeah, thank you, Leah, for putting the climate off. It's better for the sound, definitely. And then in the lower right, these are all the vehicle settings, for example, to deactivate the lane keeping assist and so on. The visualization of the screen is amazing. Also the quality here, for example, and also of the satellite view. Yeah, Best greetings to all our viewers from California, especially here today, and of course from everyone from the US, because we're filming in the US here today. Google Maps inbuilt, Android automotive background, and then you have this main menu. You will also be able to fit Apple CarPlay at a later stage to this vehicle. It will come with over-the-air update. And then there's one more button called glove box, and Leah is showing that to us. Oh, wait for it. Ta-da! Yeah, that's how you unlock the glove box. And you might say that a manual, normal physical button in the glove box would be better. However, this solution is pretty clean from the exterior, and the advantage for that is when the vehicle is locked, no one can access the glove box when you break in and so on, unless the vehicle is on.
And there's also a special hidden slot for the menu. That's nice. Ooh. Or for the phone.
Charging planning with Google Maps here inbuilt. For example, let's say we want to go to San Francisco. There we go. And this is then, let's see here, 7 hours, jump to 8 hours 27 now. So because it was including the charging time now, 12% after charging, 2 charging stops. So they can see, calculated one charging stop was 27 minutes and another one was 27 minutes. So yeah, that looks quite good from this route planning. It's of course always the question, how is it concisely? We kind of test it today, but maybe then at the later stage when we can do some extensive road tripping and so on. Stylish bottles here, by the way, for the cup holders, and yeah, it works actually pretty smooth to put them in and out. And what I also want to mention, I quickly mentioned the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, and I really have to say, like the surround sound, like the immersion, I mean, is absolutely excellent. I'm a music lover. Yeah, this really, it really touches you. It's can't describe how good it is actually. And what Leah also found out, there are no handles in the top there, neither in the front nor in the rear.
And when Thomas is driving, you need it.
That's a rumor. Now it gets really exciting, and also my workout will start very soon here with the second and third seating row. First of all, rear doors, soft touch leatherette here, also on the back part. I love that build quality, also with the bright wood once again. Then you also have the button in here for the window levers. Let's check out, by the way, here. That's also, yeah, that's nice. Dual insulation glass also for the rear doors, both front and in the rear. Here, can we see that with a dual layer? So that's very cool actually. And also at the rear doors from the inside is high-grade leatherette covering, so not just the black plain plastic. I like that. Then the rear seating area. So here you can move the seats back and forth, and this is like an individual split here, also the middle part just. Then to fold seats, you pull down this lever and then you would fold like this, and then you can see also the seat here is going down, and you fix it like this. Then you have to unlock it once again with this respective lever. There we go, and you see also that the head restraint automatically goes down. That's a typical Volvo feature, and there we go to pop it up again. The middle seat here, by the way, gets closer with the legroom. It's also a little bit stiffer. Still works with the headroom. Not the most comfortable, but it works. And for this, let's say, intermediate child solution here, there we go with this small inbuilt child seat, just to put it a little bit higher. Other than that, there is ISOFIX here. Is it also on? No, not on the front seat, but one ISOFIX here, one here, and 2 more at the third seating row soon to come. Then here, the cup holders. This opening mechanism is to me not the best one, honestly, but here it's like integrated holder. But then when you put them back again, yeah, now it works, but something is a little bit flimsy. There we go. The seat comfort itself is decent, definitely. Just the legroom here. I mean, this is the seat as I would be driving as a tall person. It works with 5 tall Ls here. Let's see about 6 and 7 seats soon, but could be more legroom, I feel. Cool that they use the EV platform, and there's just this through carpet right here. This, by the way, from Econile, so this also with recycling share, then it's also pretty cool. Separate climate unit in the rear, all wire touch though, and also the seat heating for the rear works too. There we go, and lower part 2 USB-C chargers, and this one here once again also individual. Here with this lever, I can, by the way, also adjust the angle more backward or more upright like this. So it's already very versatile right here. And then here, when I pull this lever here, this is then the entry function for the rear seats. Here it goes a little bit up and then you slide it forward a little bit. Access is still kind of small, honestly, but this is a cool function here. You see these buttons here, and these, you can do it from the trunk or from here, electrically fold in and out this third seating row. You can also do it for the other seat. Also interesting always how they fold down with the head restraints automatically. And then if you press and hold again, there we go. I don't even have to hold it, just press once again. There we go. And then I can fold up the head restraint there. And also for this side, there we go. Sometimes it needs second or third press. So like this, and then we have this third seating row again. Interesting solution here, by the way, to have this cover that, especially when the children are back there and they play with something, it cannot fall underneath that quickly. So good to have this cover, but at the same time you can open it again if something fell somewhere like this. And then I've moved this bench part here now a little bit more forward that I could still sit here. Then the question is, how much space do I still have back there in the rear end? I can maybe also climb from here. So there we go. Because like, I mean, this opening is, it will work, but it won't be that large. But then here for the third seating row, switching the position, yeah, I have to crouch in there. It's definitely not for tall adults. Yeah, with my legs, I have to put them to the side. So you see here, nothing for tall adults. Also headroom-wise, yeah, maybe for a really short trip, but yeah, it's, for me, it's claustrophobic. Of course, not as everyone is as tall. You have isofix here, that's good. So you can either use it for child seats, or then if people are not that tall, but then maybe don't need child seats anymore, like this area of height in between or something. So this, at least you're more flexible. And then you could also go for a 6-seater. They don't have a through bench, but 2 individual seats there in the front. Or on the European market, you could also go 5-seater if you don't need it at all and just want to have more trunk space underneath the cover. Then let's check out the trunk or the boot, also very interesting. Then cabin totally fits in easily, also when the third seating row is up. So that's the thing, we didn't have too much leg room. However, in the Volvo XC90, it's also the same scheme like in the EX90. They go for a lot of trunk length. First of all, the width here is like 1.10 m or 43 inches, and the length here, when the third row is up, is about, you know, like almost 60 centimeters or 23 inches. Underneath, there's much more space. Look at that, that's cool. This interior splitter, you can also completely remove, and look at the space you have then. So that's almost like Tesla Model Y size or Model X size underneath. So that's actually quite decent. And also the height here, this opening 77 centimeters or 30 inches. Now this one, as we've just shown to you, we can actually electrically fold them. Here, these capacitive buttons, head restraints fold, go down like this, and also completely flat. Beep, beep, beep. And then the length here is almost 130 in meters or 51 inches. And that's really impressive. There you can see where the length went all. To fold this then, however, I have to go around and then use these here like this. And as we showed to you earlier, they also go full flat like here. And this is now 2 meters and 10 or 80 inches. So that's really full length. And more cool things. First of all, here in the lower part, you can lower the vehicle if it has the air suspension for better loading in and out. And then here, the buttons for the third seating row, when you press them again, you can also higher them again from the trunk part. And you could also just like fold up the head restraints like this. And also inspired by the EX30 here, the will it fit sign. So that actually has the measures also. And interesting that the measures down there, they are a little bit longer than what I measured. And the reason for that is, the question is always like, do you measure up till here? Because you don't really know from the outside where is the hedge closing. But if it's closing here, obviously, then you can use this space here also for a couple of centimeters more. But it's actually a funny feature to have that here. Whoop. Woo. Welcome to Thomas's driving lounge. Started with the acceleration with the Volvo EX90. That was slightly uphill in the performance AWD mode. So performance all-wheel drive, and we have the performance version here. So yeah, in this case probably was a little bit slower because slightly uphill, but the official figure is 4.7 seconds to 60 miles an hour and 4.9 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour, so under 5 seconds. This performance version here, just a little bit more software tune, and yeah, you do feel that notably. I mean, a second is something you do feel definitely. And yes, it was a good acceleration. The rear electric motor is a little bit stronger than the front one. Of course, in this case, we get the push from both. But what I also realize, it is so extremely silent in here. I mean, we're here on the highway number 1. So greetings once again to all our friends in the US. Large fan base here in California. So greetings to all of you especially. And I mean, it directly starts to relax you, although it has a lot of power. That is amazing. What is our expert on noise installation saying to that?
It's crazy.
It's crazy,
silent,
right?
yeah.
Wow. Oh, I hope these officers are not waiting for us. I mean, I did not exceed the speed limit, so yeah, that's very important. Not sure who they were controlling there. It always looks impressive, right? The US police guys, they always look very impressive, very, very, very important. You know. Thanks for the service as well. Then let's continue here with our review. I can't even believe we're going like almost like 60 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour. Wow. That's incredible. So I didn't expect it to be that silent and that refined. So also if you compare it to, we recently had the Volvo XC90 pre-facelift. Of course, soon you'll see the Volvo XC90 facelift, or if you watch that review at a later stage, it's already online. And this is miles between this and the Volvo XC90 as for the noise insulation. So our initial question, exterior, interior, was like, is it a worthy EV successor in a way, still being built parallel? And in a way, it does even exceed that, you know, at least in this case, of course, performance-wise and also noise insulation-wise. So I'm really fond of that. You have different possibilities also to switch things here around in the driving modes and interior and stuff. And one of that is the one pedal driving. So at the moment, one pedal driving is active. And that means when I let go of the throttle, there is immediate deceleration. I can also turn it off. So when I then just lift my foot, I'm just rolling, and then I do the recuperation with the brake pedal. It is not that one is actually more efficient and the other is less efficient. It's just a different way of driving, and what you are getting used to and maybe what your co-driver is getting used to. And I mean, if you are really soft with throttle, then you can also make the one pedal driving work, and it's cool for the passenger. Sometimes you have to get used to it. And then there's the third setting, it's like auto. And this is then, for example, when there is a vehicle in front of us, then there's recuperation, and when there's no vehicle in front of us, yeah, there's just rolling. And oh, there's like a...
He likes it louder.
yeah, he likes it loud, yeah. Indeed. So steering here, we first start with a soft setting. And yeah, I mean, it's very easy to steer, very nice to ease it around in a parking lot and so on. It is not the most connected feeling, I would say, but also not the most disconnected one. So you feel that they have made it extra light for you, and that's totally fine, you know. And we're still in the AVWD performance mode, like a quick sprint from 50 kilometers an hour to 65. Wow. Plop, that's it already. So you immediately get the push from that. That's pretty cool. And for more efficient driving, I would now deactivate the performance mode, and when, for example, not so much acceleration is being used, then the car can uncouple the rear electric motor, as I said earlier, for more efficiency. Very interesting system then that they put the rear electric motor, although this is like the main electric motor, but they had their reasons for that, especially like with the torque control and so on. So you can get a little bit more efficiency out of the car as for that. And speaking of that, so just to control it once again, we can just reset here the trip meter. So that's a good thing to do because we had some like lot of acceleration in there, which maybe usually you don't do in that kind of way.
Push the
yeah.
home button and then you...
Ah, yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, Leah is just quicker with all these texting. So yeah, I'm the old guy always asking for climate knobs and stuff, and she's like, oh, this, and then how did you do that? You know, it's like, yeah. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just too old school car nerdy for some of the stuff. As for that, yeah, I don't feel too old though. That's fine. So once again, 65 miles an hour. So that's 110 kilometers an hour. Extremely silent here. So relaxed. That's just awesome. And we can show you more of these driving features. Maybe not ideal to do that all while driving it, so I would not recommend it, but Leah can help me with that. Yeah, here the settings, thank you, and then driving. So then view all, yes indeed. So here you also have another view of these one pedal driving things and steering feel. You can set to firm, so there you have a little bit more feedback. I do like that, so it's a good idea if that's too soft for you. And as far as I have heard, these settings are also being saved for the next restart. And suspension feel, so we do have the optional air suspension in here, and it does do a good job to even out that 22-inch wheel setup because they are the largest ones, and of course they do cost you some comfort, that is true, but the air suspension is doing a good job. It's not set on a super floaty thing, but I think they found a good compromise there. And if we set it to firm, then sometimes it doesn't. Oh, my finger's too flimsy. I don't know. So here now set firm. Yeah, we immediately feel that, right? So the road is quite even, but there's some fine, bumps in there, and these you do feel way more with the firm. Yeah, it's interesting, right? So if you want to drive sporty or something, you see they did not do a setup where you can very, very quickly change these settings. That's not what they did. It's not a performance-oriented vehicle or something. But I would rather keep it in soft and enjoy some more of this air suspension comfort. If you want even more comfort, then stick with the smaller wheels, like at least 21-inch, or maybe even a 20-inch if it's available in the respective version then on your market. Wow, it's like, isn't it F150 or F250? With these yellow daytime running lights in the front, that looks amazing. Yeah, we don't have that in Germany, no. So, it's like Super Duty. Is it, guys?
This
is
name
it
so cute.
Yeah, F250 Super Duty. So yeah, always like for all the rugged stuff, definitely cool. Yeah. So I'm really enjoying the ride, although sometimes the road is not that even. Air suspension is evening it out, and enjoying all the silentness in this interior. And although it's a really, really heavy vehicle, we had that topic earlier, the light steering, the good suspension, and also the nice noise insulation and all the comfort and so on, it doesn't make you feel the weight. So the funny thing is that it feels lighter than the Volvo XC90 in driving. I'm looking forward to how it will develop this feeling with the XC90, because soon with the facelift, there will be. I always want to swipe down to get to the map again. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I have to learn that, definitely. Yeah. So I'm looking forward also how the Volvo XC90 facelift will be changed in driving, and we'll report back to you on that as well. This will also be very interesting if it, can maybe make something up of these differences and so on. But so far, yeah, really fond of that. And you immediately start thinking about all the competitors, like the BMW iX, for example, Mercedes EQE SUV, EQS SUV, then the longer one. And the Audi, well, yeah, that's the Q6 e-tron now. It's a little bit smaller, definitely, but that would be the closest competitor now. And of course, the Kia EV9. And we had all of these reviews, and it's super interesting to recheck them. But it is definitely one of the hot competitors in there due to its comfort, and it really feels refined. I like to change the temperature in an easier way, definitely while driving. So I always have to look way down, click it, and then click here plus and minus. So That's not my favorite thing. It's probably the thing that I like least with this vehicle. And I'm not that guy who likes to talk with the vehicle all the time. I rather prefer talking to Leah and prefer talking to people actually than to my vehicle. Yeah, we can try that. And let's say, I'm hot. You knew that, right?
Maybe you'd like to go swimming.
Maybe you'd like to go swim. I thought it's like, for real? I'm cold.
Sorry, I can't control that in this car.
So that's not possible. Set temperature to 20 degrees. That's Celsius.
Got it. Changing the temperature to the coldest setting.
Ah, okay. So you need a degree. It's like set temperature to 72 degrees. That's correct. Fahrenheit, for example. Middle temperature.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Oh, I need to stop it. Set temperature to 72 degrees.
Got it. Changing the temperature to 72 degrees.
There it is. Set lowest temperature. Set lowest temperature.
All right, changing the temperature to the lowest setting.
Yeah, so that works. So in this case, probably I will have to get used to talking to the car about the temperature and so on. Yeah, you can then maybe also live with that. About assistant systems, we activate them here on the left side of the steering wheel. Oh wait, sorry. About assistant systems, like with Tesla, we press this one here down, like the stalk gear, changing gears and so on. Then we can also change it here. And we also have the active lane keeping assist, shows me here with the green symbol. Let's see how many corrections or maybe overcorrections there are and so on. But so far, it's keeping it quite calm in the lane. Of course, you have to keep your hands at the steering wheel. Now, motorway is making this slight right bend here. Yeah, also this transition between the lanes. So far, so good. That's nice. Oh, actually pretty cool. And if you want to have some of the assistance systems deactivated, by the way, is also that you press this vehicle button there, and then you can directly click lane keeping aid, and that's like the row there, down there. They told me is where in the EU also where you can deactivate. That's a nice green for the Macan GTS. Wasn't it Mamba green? Wasn't it called Mamba green? Quite sure. We have a review of exactly this vehicle on our channel actually, like a Macan combustion engine GTS, this color. You should watch it as well. Yeah, this speed limit deactivation is also supposed to be in there. And I think very well done here from the assistant systems. Then blind spot monitor, I see a red triangle in these frameless mirrors. That's what I wanted to say. I think beautiful in the design, and then also blind spot with the red triangle. So also good as for the assistant systems. And yeah, I know, talked about it, we have a lot of different sensor systems here, even the LiDAR. So this also promises a very reliable recognition of what's happening around you with the vehicles and so on. And honestly, I really have to say, hardly ever had the highways, they're sometimes kind of like bombed out, so to speak, if you know what I mean, like with all the potholes and bumps and so on, and all the heavy duty trucks being on there every day and so on. But it's super relaxing, super comfortable. Seating wise, as I said earlier, I probably would go for the perforated Nordico seats, like the high-grade leatherette with perforation. I feel the material is even softer than the fabric seat material. And then you also have the active seat cooling. So when it's a really hot day, and yeah, that sunroof, probably when you're living in a hot state, I would get this additional cover that you put on from the lower part, because I also feel it with my hand. It's getting really hot with this sunroof there. Lane change, by the way, also well done. The car doesn't shake up much at all, and I would really keep it in the rather firm steering setting, I feel, because that gives me a little bit more feedback, and I like to have more steering feedback. Leah rather would go the opposite, probably with a soft steering setup. She nods, yeah, because she just enjoys when the car feels a little bit lighter to drive and she doesn't need to use much force, with the steering wheel and so on. Here, maybe these typical, like California guys will know that when you have some of the lanes which have like these longitudinal, very fine lines in the concrete, that's sometimes extremely loud. You also hear it now picking up on the camera, but considering, you know, it might be even louder in this car, it's also relatively silent. So this from start to finish, basically the main thing you feel in that vehicle. Does it give me a typical Volvo vibe? I would say these new electric vehicles add something very specific to it. And I feel that considering also past Volvo models, this one feels a little bit more agile and sportier than the combustion engine Volvos, which is a typical thing for the electric vehicles because, yes, the weight is higher on the one hand, but then again, the center of gravity is really low in the vehicle. And that also helps with the driving feel and so on. It has its physical limits, of course, when you're pushing really hard into a certain corner or something. Then, of course, a non-battery electric vehicle will always be more agile just because it has less weight. Can you also go for a rear-wheel drive version of this one here? Absolutely. If you don't need this additional acceleration power, it will also be quite efficient. Yes, a little bit less kilowatt hours capacity of the battery, but the car will be a little bit lighter, will be cool in handling, and yeah, can also of course be even more efficient, so you can make up for this some kilowatt hour difference then that you lose from the capacity and so on. Meanwhile, I have deactivated one pedal driving, by the way. To me it feels a little bit more that I'm used to drive the vehicle. Others say I drove with one pedal and that's the best thing. Leah's also a fan of one pedal driving, so she really says like, when I just need to use one pedal, why shouldn't I do it? Yeah, but it's probably once again the thing, like how many years are you used to do something and how much do you want to keep it with your preference. But the good thing, it offers actually both. And now some more curvy driving. I also put the suspension feel now to firm, so this will help us here then a little bit in cornering. We have a beautiful road here, definitely, and it's really interesting that it feels nice and sporty. It is fun to drive. That is a very important aspect, definitely. And it is very well to control and also predictable, especially if you have decided for a specific recuperation system that you are most familiar with, actually. And once again, the impression that although it is really super heavy, it doesn't feel that heavy because of the whole silent suspension setup and so on, and also the steering feel. But here for these cases here, suspension firm and steering wheel firm is actually good. It's not that it doesn't work here with the soft suspension. And if I have opened that here like this, because Leah opened that for me like this, then it's easier to set. But honestly, to change these settings, to go deep in these menu while driving, not to be recommended at all. So it's probably also not what they really thought of. So they rather thought of, hey, you set it up once and that's kind of it. Everything else is actually not safe enough. So I would probably just leave it with suspension feel soft, even if I from time to time drive sporty, because even if it's here in the soft setting, yeah, you can still drive with driving fun, no doubt about that. And I mean, all these cars here passing really close next to us, I hardly actually hear them once again because of the good noise insulation. So these are the things that surprised me most, how silent it is, and at the same time how good the handling actually is. And this is also because of the EV and also because of the very new platform. It's an interesting place to overtake. Okay. Oh, VW Jetta racing car for us here. Yeah, and here close to 60 miles an hour again. Very, I would call it like sovereign ride. I know this is not a word that you usually use for that, but I always use it to describe when it's a really convincing ride. It gives you confidence, it's very calm, and you know, yeah, it just leaves you satisfied and also with comfort. At the same time, you have enough power reserves to really hit it through. Should you maybe go for the rear-wheel drive version? I like rear-wheel drive cars, you know that. It's not that quick, yet at the same time is also a little bit lighter. And yes, it does lose some kilowatt hours in the net capacity. At the same time, it is also the more efficient concept. Although we do have this uncoupling feature here, yes, of course, but maybe then the difference is not too large between all of these vehicles. And soon at the very end, I will also give you once again an update about our concise consumption on the trip we have shown you here on camera. Efficiency and real-world range. Today we could score some 18 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. So that's 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour in ideal conditions. So 60 miles, 100 kilometers an hour, or most of the time even less than that here on these roads. Also best temperature, so ideal conditions. So that is of course a great result. Range-wise means concise real-world range 600 kilometers or 370 miles, but only under these ideal conditions. When you go for like higher speed and so on, it will be more like 21 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometer, more like 3 miles per kilowatt hour. So even then at a little bit higher speeds, you can then calculate with about 500 kilometers or 300 miles, then you're actually safe also when the conditions are not that great. Pricing starts around 80,000 euros or dollars, and if you spec the vehicle, high trim, all-wheel drive, you get close to 100,000. So not a widest margin between base and high trim. That's, I think, a good solution. It depends on the market which versions are offered also initially. If maybe some versions are offered at a later stage and so on, we have to take a look at that definitely. Is it now a worthy electric version of the XC90? I think definitely yes. It feels really premium, it's really silent on the interior. That's interesting. Look at that. There's a Volvo XC90, like the petrol one. Just see that here. It's the same color basically. So that's a perfect scene, right? Thank you so much for this demonstration. That was not planned, by the way. This was pure coincidence. Seriously, but great coincidence, right? And perfectly fitted to my moderation. So yeah, I think both will have, you know, still place to live, because if you have a charging infrastructure, this might just be the thing for you. And if you don't have any charging infrastructure possibility, or that's a problem in your country or the neighborhood where you're living, then you can go with the XC90. Facelift will be out on our channel. And yeah, with plug-in hybrid and mild hybrid drivetrains, everything you need to know about that. And yeah, as it is here in the Vapor Grey, also sand dune color, also very beautiful from the exterior and so on. A Volvo SUV comparison for you with Thomas and Autogefühl. Volvo XC40 versus the bigger Volvo XC60. This will be very interesting. Let's directly start here in the front with the XC40, the smaller brother, with a very upright, strong design, three-dimensional curved in design here in the very front grille, and Thor's Hammer LED signature, really beautiful, and Thunder Grey is that color, whereas we have Denim Blue with the bigger XC60. Although it's the bigger car, the front looks a little bit less upright, but still a strong look. And here also with the vertical fins, depending on the trim, it also differs a little bit. So you can see that they both belong to the Volvo family, but I think the XC40, the design is maybe a little bit fresher. Or what do you think? Tell me in the comments. Side profile and technology comparison. Let's start here with the length of the XC40, which is 4 meters 43 or 174 inches. And you more have a crossover look right here and a three-dimensional look, especially in the lower area, and very distinctive this top side profile here. Now the XC60 is 26 centimeters or 10 inches longer than the XC40. Technology difference is that we also optionally have an air suspension here, and you can see wheel arch wise, for example, and also from the whole side silhouette, it looks a little bit less crossoverish and a little more elaborate, I would say. The question is if this length difference also translates into more room on the inside or more trunk. We'll find out very soon. And also about the prices. Obviously the XC60 is more expensive. How much, and how much is the price exactly for these top trim test vehicles? Later on this will be super interesting. Well, in the front I preferred the XC40 design. In the side profile I preferred the XC60 design. Here in the rear now they have some similarities, you know, like the basic form right here and also the vertical lamps, but then it changes it right here. Also different as for the turning indicators. This looks a little bit more modern than in this case. Yeah, I would still go for the XC60 as for the visual design part, also in the rear, I would say. And even more interesting, of course, how the turning indicators look like in the front. That's the same here for both. Looks quite amazing, doesn't it? Engine choices? What the hell? Have you seen this? I mean, I've never seen a hood that opens that wide. I mean, an elephant could service this one here by that wide opening. It looks strange, doesn't it? Anyways, engine choices, petrol, diesel, plug-in hybrid petrol, and all EV, all electric, already for the XC40. That is not available yet for the XC60. Will come at a later stage than with the all-new generation. And also the XC40 here has a 1.5 liter petrol 3-cylinder, and the 1.5 liter 3-cylinder is also the base for the plug-in hybrid. Whereas then of course the rest of the engines are the 2 liter 4-cylinders, and then here the XC60 only has the 2 liter 4-cylinders, petrol, diesel, and also for the base plug-in hybrid. People always say the cars look tiny when I'm standing next to them, but I guess I can't be too tall for this one, right? Let's get to the interior of the XC40. Normal Volvo key, door closing sound. Yeah, pretty solid, really nice. And also here from the interior materials, the structure inside, and also soft touch, and they make it from one piece here. That's actually very nicely done. Also the felt interior of the inside door pockets is really nice, and also more sustainable material choices and so on. The interior, typical Scandinavian design. Here in this case with the fabric seats, that does have some wool share. If you want to go completely animal free, there's also black fabric seat available. Depending on the version, also leatherette seat or also microfiber leatherette mix. The XC40 EV, the all-electric version, is completely animal free by default. Here in the lower part you can also put that back, and it looks even nicer. Here is then a little bit longer. The big question will be, the XC40, considering it's a compact SUV, already feels quite grown up. And if you compare the XC40 to the brand external competitors, like a Mercedes GLA, for example, this one feels more SUV, whereas some of the other competitors more feel crossover. That's the thing I really like about the XC40. Headroom, here this one does have the panoramic roof, and then it leaves some headroom with 189 or 6'2". The panoramic roof, let me turn on the ignition right here. Panoramic roof here, you can see you can put this slider here back, so when it's really hot, it's really important to have that. But you see there is this split, so it's also panoramic roof, which you can actually still open. That's of course a cool thing to have. So the big question will be, when we soon will switch over to the XC60, does it deliver more seating comfort than the XC40, that it would be worth stepping up a segment? I think the ergonomics are really good. Volvo seats in general have also good seat ergonomics for tall people. That's what I like, but really looking forward if there will be a crucial difference very soon. Interior overview, also simple. Here recently with the facelift you see these structured design patterns right here. Also 9-inch screen. Don't be mistaken, this will also soon get the Android Automotive system. This is one of the last engine versions here that hasn't gotten it yet. So soon all XC40 will also get the Android Auto system. So we won't waste time on this and check it out in the XC60. Here clearly one central knob still. This will be the same for the volume, everything else then via touch. In the lower part you can see USB-A connector, but also inductive charging pad underneath. And in this case we have this crystalline shifting lever, and goes back like this or forward for reverse. The cup holes are adaptive, and then we also have decent build quality here for the armrest. Underneath even more space. What I love about the XC40 is here the matte styling of the buttons at the steering wheel. The XC60 will soon get the high gloss buttons. Here you will soon see that in our video, so I do prefer the solution right here. Instruments, these are the so far or older ones if you buy used, for example. If you buy a new XC40 for most versions, and soon also for this version here, you will then get the Android Automotive instruments we will soon see in the XC60. Really nice interior materials also here at the rear door, soft touch as well, and again with the felt accentuation. And you sit very well here in the rear as well. So it's the smallest SUV, the XC40 here, and still there's some legroom left here. No problem for 4 tall adults. 5. There's a substantial middle tunnel. However, when you have squeezed yourself in here, it does work. So also decently comfortable. Of course, the outside seats are more comfortable, but overall very well usable. Here, folded down like this, adaptive cup holders. So overall, as for the offering of space here, already very nicely done. This wool material, by the way, I think it doesn't feel that good because it feels a little bit rough from the surface. I would indeed tend to pick the base fabric seats, or then in the R design, the microfiber mix. Yeah, maybe depending on the version you have on the market, or the full leatherette. So, but I do prefer the normal fabric seats. To me, they are most breathable, and also from the surface, they feel best. Actually, the microfiber seats, however, will probably look the best. Key fob, the same, and also door closing sound. It's really good, flawless, and also comparable interior materials here from the top. But then there is, let's say, less design focus here a little bit. This looks more clean in the XC40, and also the XC40 has the felt on the inside, where here is the black plain plastic. Steering wheel is comparable, and also the seat. As for the material, in the US, by the way, and also in Germany, you can get a black fabric or also a bright city weave material that is also animal free with a special styling. These ones here, again, the fabric with a little bit wool share. The UK does lack animal free options, sadly, for the XC60. And you can see the seat is a little bit more, let's say, has a little bit more form to it. But also, does it really, does it translate into more comfort? That's the big question. The XC40 already feels grown up as for an SUV, and indeed, what you feel here in the front in the XC60 is doesn't feel big of a difference. When you compare BMW X1 to X3, or Mercedes GLA to GLC, Audi Q3 to Q5, you feel more of a difference than here Volvo XC40 to Volvo XC60. That rather speaks for the XC40 because it's a cheaper vehicle, cheap in relative terms. Here you feel you have a little bit more space to the front with the hood and so on, little bit more headroom, but it's whatever that was, but it wouldn't really justify the extra price. So the seats here, they are to me a little bit firmer even though they offer a little bit more bolstering. But I wouldn't say that the XC60 is more comfortable. It's also comfortable, but sitting here in the front, maybe I would even go for the XC40. Here, by the way, the panoramic roof. There's also then one with the shade. Basically works the very same way. Here now also with this capacitive touch. And then you can also open that whole thing. So indeed, from the front already, both the smaller and the bigger one are quite comparable. Interior overview, you have these accentuations here with the matte wood. That's actually lovely done, but the base layout with 9-inch screen is more or less the same. Then we do have this Android Automotive screen here now for almost all the Volvo models. And big news, recent upgrade, now Apple CarPlay also for the Android Automotive systems in Volvo and Polestar, being rolled out by over-the-air updates. Is an integration and all over the screen. That's actually cool. And in this case, then I can use the Google Maps from the Apple CarPlay, but also the Google Maps, which is inbuilt by this Android Automotive system. They do not offer Android Auto, by the way. This is just the Android Auto is the smart for mirroring. Android Automotive is the whole system, because I say, hey, you get the Google Maps integration anyway. Your phone you can connect via Bluetooth, and that's basically it. Not sure you could also offer that. Renault does also offer that with Android Automotive, both CarPlay and Android Auto. Who is getting used to it? So this whole system here is really fast. Also the Google Maps integration is nice, and it doesn't offer so much complexity, but it gives you everything you need, and it's fast and reliable, and that's a really great thing to have. Middle console also with these nice covers, and this one slide open for the cup holders. In the front, there's just this tiny cubby hole, 12-volt power supply, and then you can fold up this armrest, and then there's here the USB-C chargers. Then steering wheel with real buttons here as well. And then if you move to the instruments, they have this Android Automotive view, which will count for all the Volvos. Here you can see with the map integration or without. Pretty simple, does the job. And here for the XC60, you can also get a head-up display. XC60 here in the rear, that is really interesting. First of all, at the inside of the doors, also nice materials. But once again, the look in the XC40 is a little bit more uncluttered. Here, a lot of different elements. Bose and Wilkins is the top sound system here, by the way, but to me, sound-wise, it's not better than the Harman Kardon in the XC40. Maybe from the sound experience, I even like the Harman Kardon more. Here, as for the headroom, also some left, but legroom here, yeah, that's basically the same result we have in the XC40. So it's not that you would have more space here in the XC60. Will that difference be in the trunk? We'll soon find out. And then here in the middle part, yeah, I mean, you can also see it, but the same, once again here, a little bit stiffer in the back part. And then we fold down this. We have here these cupboards that are a little bit more forward actually. But overall, yeah, both in the front and also here in the rear, the space and comfort are really comparable, both XC40 and XC60. Now, the trunks or the boots, fight it out. Let's begin with the smaller one, the XC40. The liter difference is around 50 liters, but what is it in length and width? Here, the length about 90 centimeters or 35 inches, and the width a little bit less than a meter or 40 inches. So let's remember that, but overall well usable. This here in case of the plug-in hybrid, a cable box, and then of course the height of the trunk is a little bit limited with the plug-in hybrid. You have to fold the seats from the rear area. When we move over to the XC60, so liter capacity is a little bit more. The height is more or less the same. Here also a little bit reduced because of the plug-in hybrid version. But here, now the big difference is the length here, you can see it's about, yeah, it's a little bit less than a meter or 40 inches. So you gain about this here, you know, in length, and also in the width. You can see it's more than a meter or 40 inches. So yeah, about this you gain. So yeah, almost 10 centimeters or 4 inches. So once again, this more in width and, you know, like this more in length. So indeed, from the basic things here, the big advantage of the XC60 is indeed you have more trunk capacity and more width and more length. Is it really worth it? Is it that big of a difference? I wouldn't say it's not so significant if you think about everyday practicability, but it does change something if you're a family and you're driving, you know, on holiday or something. And one big difference we can already see right here, because here, if you have the optional air suspension, then you can also lower the vehicle here for better loading in and out. And air suspension, that is something only the XC60 is offering and not the smaller brother. Welcome to Thomas's comparison driving lounge. Starting here with the Volvo XC40 with the smaller one. And it will be really interesting to find out all about the differences. Blind spot monitor here in the side mirror. That's a very good assistance system. And it feels really light and compact, just as the size is. Steering here is quite direct, but it doesn't give you the best feeling, meaning you don't have a natural feeling for the car. It feels a little bit artificial. Seating comfort is really good, and as I said earlier, in the interior part, it already feels somewhat grown up, so you don't miss a bigger SUV, at least when you're driving the smaller one here. Well, in the front here, there's not an XC60, it's a V60 actually. Yeah, sometimes hard to differentiate because they can also be put a little bit higher, especially when it's the cross-country version. Well, in normal city driving, it's already quite silent. We soon also head out to the German motorway, the Autobahn, and it overall gives you a very relaxed, calm, and just a good feeling here. So the roundabout package of the driving feeling is really very nice. You know, you have a decent size on the interior, not too big, not too long on the exterior, and that's why it's also relatively easy to steer it around in the city. You get the most parking spots and so on. This can also be a big advantage if you compare it to the XC60, that you can just easier park it in and out, easier ease it in the parking lot. So that's what I really like about the XC40 right here. All right, now let's go to the motorway. Yeah, also a little bit faster. good side handling, feels really nice. You have a lot of driving fun indeed in the XC40. The suspension is quite firm, I have to say, but not too bad. So bumps are also even out quite well. I think they found a nice setup here for the suspension. Remember, no air suspension is available here, but in this segment it's absolutely fine if they don't offer that, and you also don't really need it. Although we have quite big wheels mounted here, the 19-inch wheels, it's not too uncomfortable from bumps in the road and so on. And here also higher speeds, more than 100 kilometers an hour or more than 60 miles an hour, reasonably insulated here, so you really get a premium SUV feeling. Here once again, a little bit sportier in that next right corner. It's always cool when we switch motorways from one to another, then you can really test the agility. Seats also keep you quite tight, especially if you have a fabric-based seat. In this case here we have the plug-in hybrid drivetrain, but drivetrain comparison won't play the biggest effect here in this comparison. It will just play a big role if you have the all-electric version, which is offered in the XC40 and in the C40. There's also a separate video on that actually, but both in the city, countryside and on the motorway, the XC40 feels very well balanced and it can actually master every discipline, no problem. The big question is now, what about the XC60? Is it really better for the extra price you pay? Is it more or less fun to drive? Well, and now to the XC60. Told you in the interior part, the basic seating position is not too different. Maybe the seat is a little bit larger, but then again, the cushion is a little bit firmer, so I wouldn't really say that this delivers more comfort or so. And at first glance, we also had equal space set up in the rear and so on. Yeah, a little bit bigger trunk and so on. So it's really up to the driving part now if there is a significant difference and if the extra price is really justified. Of course, you can also go with the XC60 with a normal suspension. Then the suspension setup won't be that different. Here, however, the optional air suspension. And that, of course, delivers more driving comfort. However, we do have 20-inch wheels mounted on here. And that also leads to that these fine changes in the road are more transported to your body and you feel them. And the basic setup here, when it goes from left, right, is then rather a little bit softer. That's the basic difference. And the XC60 is not for racing. Clearly not. None of the Volvos are. It's more for enjoying and driving a little bit calmer, not feeling the urge to accelerate it all out and so on. And the engines are also not laid out on that anyway. It's also good noise insulation. It feels really calm on the inside, and also, because it's a little bit longer, it sits a little bit more settled on the road. So from the chassis and suspension wise, it feels a little bit more grown up, a little bit more sophisticated. It's also how it's supposed to be. Also the hood there is a little bit longer and so on. But the thing is really that my basic impression from sitting in the cockpit is basically confirmed, because it's not the biggest difference. So once again here, inside there's another, that was a C40 actually. So inside this Volvo model portfolio, the difference between XC40 and XC60, also driving wise, is not as large as you would expect it. I'll soon also hop onto the same motorway part and move it a little bit more, in an agile way to see more comparison about that. But yeah, so I think seating position wise, maybe I think I'm even a little bit happier with the XC40. Just, running straight and enjoying a more, serenity rides, so to speak, that might be a little bit better than in the XC60. XC60? That could be a new Volvo SUV, right? So, Volvo guys, I just invent a new name for you for when they have like an even smaller SUV, XC60. So I meant the XC. Thank you. So, Yeah, the XC60 here. So it still feels good also in the city. Of course, you're a little bit more limited as for parking in and out if you directly compare it to the smaller XC40. Still agile enough, definitely. Yeah, here when you approach, for example, a traffic light and there's some like waves and you feel that the air suspension is evening it out a little bit more. So yeah, just feels a little bit more sophisticated, but as I said, the difference not too large. How is it now when I drive it, for example, you know, from a traffic light, from 0 around the corner, 90-degree bend here now, and also on the motorway. Here we go. Around the corner. Yeah, there the XC40 just feels a little bit lighter, you know, and also, you know, when I'm going some right, left here, legs a little bit behind. So the XC40 gives you a more direct connection when you have the steering input and so on. The basic steering setup feels kind of similar because it is direct for the steering input. Then again, doesn't feel that natural. You don't get the best feeling for the car. But what I meant is when you do a steering command and then how the suspension or the chassis, you know, changes right, left, and how you feel all together. With the XC40, you feel more one with the vehicle, and here you feel more, okay, the vehicle is driving for you, more or less. You know, that's how I would describe the difference. Now we get to the German Autobahn, see how it is in that faster corner. I have to slow down here just a little before that. Both plug-in hybrid drivetrains, by the way, today to make it comparable. Of course, you always have these electric driving moments and it's all silent. And when you push it a little bit further, then the combustion engine also sets in. If the plug-in hybrid makes sense, depends really on the driving profile and also on tax subsidies and so on. I'm not the biggest fan of plug-in hybrids. I rather tend to go, hey, still get the petrol engine pure or go all electric and decide depending on the charging infrastructure you have. Here now in the corner, still fun to drive. It pushes me and leans a little bit more outward than the XC40 definitely, but still feels good. And here now a little higher speeds, so some motorway speeds, also decently silent. It's more silent than the XC40. Probably the same, right, Michelle? Yeah, Michelle also agrees. So wouldn't say that there's much. Maybe if one is calmer, I think this one maybe. I'm not sure. So doesn't feel like the biggest difference, at least because the XC40 also has dual insulation glass and so on. So everything fine also in that respect. I feel that from the whole chassis and the length of the vehicle, I would rather go with this one for the motorway. But when I just rate the very seat I'm sitting on, I think I would even go with the XC40. So the best motorway setup to me would be actually you can also, you know, electronically adjust everything and so on. Let's see. Yeah, doing that. There we go. Is the number support, for example. Yeah. So I would take the XC40 seat, but with the XC60 chassis for the best motorway setup. But both are comfortable and also good motorway rides, no doubt about that. Yeah, that is really, really interesting. So both deliver you a very interesting and very good ride. The XC60 then maybe, yeah, to give you a little bit more calmness. The XC40 for a little bit more directness and driving fun. As I said, in the newer generations, newer versions, newer model years, and also already the XC40 EV and the pure petrol and so on, they all now get the Android Automotive system here right and also left in the instruments, depending on when exactly you are buying. And also maybe if you're buying used or so. So even in driving, not the biggest of a difference. That's very interesting. So it might be a very close call. Or will it be? Let's check out our final conclusion. Well, what do we do now? Which one would I actually take home? And also considering the price difference. So if you start with the base version, it's more like 35, 44 or something in euros, 1,000 euros of course. So just like an 8,000 euros price difference. But then the higher you spec them and the higher you go also in the engines and so on, the price difference is rising. And here with the higher trim levels and so on, and also as plug-in hybrid, we are at the concise prices of 64,000 euros and 88,000 euros. So spec'd, the price difference then triples. And yeah, when you then think about this massive price difference of 24,000 euros, then just as for the price performance, it's clearly the XC40. As for the exterior, well, in the front I like the XC40 better, the XC60 inside and the rear, but wouldn't be the biggest difference to me. Interior-wise, also quite similar from the styling. Surprising thing is that the XC40 doesn't have less space on the interior or something. It's just more that the trunk space is a little bit limited. The XC60 has a longer and wider trunk. That would be the main, let's say, hard fact difference. And that optionally you can also get an air suspension. Driving-wise, also the difference is not as large as you might expect. The XC60 maybe a little bit more, a little bit more sophisticated in the driving, but I found the seating position, the ergonomics with the seats even a little bit better with the XC40. Well, and then when you consider the price difference and also that you get along a little bit better in the city, to me today, the clear winner is the Volvo XC40. I have always liked the Volvo XC40 and its SUV coupe brother, the C40. But in the electric version, yeah, the range and efficiency were a little bit off. This is about to change. Or is it? We're going to find out with the upgraded XC40 here with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here with the front all the way closed in the recharged version or this pure electric version. There are still also combustion engines available for the XC40, but this, the pure EV. Cloud blue is this really super light bluish or maybe even grayish color, very interesting one. And the Thor's Hammer LED, this one also has the optional pixel light for more performance. The length stays at 4,43 meters or 174 inches. By the way, the C40 just a centimeter longer in the rear, but it's more this shape that is different. You can also get a two-tone roof. You just have to check that it's not really off as for the color combination. Wheels here, in this case, the biggest one that are available, 20-inch. They're a little bit more aerodynamic now, and they're also new aerodynamic 19-inch wheels. The most interesting technological change, before it was front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Now it's the other way around, always a rear electric motor. And then you can also get the all-wheel drive version, or if that's standard in your market. So the rear electric motor is always the stronger one, and they are also more efficient than before, supposed to give you a boost in range. The CD value, by the way, is 0.34 for the XC40 and 0.32 for the C40. So that means on the motorway, higher speeds, the C40 will be even more efficient. While looking at the typical Volvo SUV shape, let's talk about the second big change. The battery, the small one, stays the same. The bigger one now, a 4 kWh upgrade to 79 kWh net. And this will also, of course, bring more range. I would always go for the big battery. In some markets, the small one is even not available. And at the end of the review, we'll check out how much range we can score with that. And the charging upgrade here now, 200 kilowatt DC peak. That means 28 minutes from 10 to 80% state of charge. Turning indicators in the front look pretty fancy here. They replaced the Thor's Hammer daytime running light. Turning indicator in the rear. It doesn't seem like LED here. However, it has this pulsing effect kinda. What do you think? Tell me in the comments. Oh, are we on? Sorry. Will it frunk or not? That looks clean, and yes, there is a small frunk underneath. Even here with this elegant back. PHEV, nothing special. Controls its side, not too practical, I found. Then door closing sound. It's actually quite decent. Then inside of the doors. Here's also structured and soft touch material. Then you have this three-dimensional inlet right here, so it's actually quite likable. And also this felt covering on the inside. They also use recycled materials. Just the lower part here is hard pack. Seating position here is actually decently comfortable as for the ergonomics. And here 189, 62 still have some headroom left here. As for the seats, they look pretty cool. These here are the ones that have some kind of wool share, and the strange thing is that might be because Leah told me she was here with the short shorts, and then when the real skin is touching the seat, it can be these effects from like wool clothing and so on. It can be kind of unpleasant on the skin. So I would actually prefer either the full leatherette seats. They're available in all market, or in UK or in Germany you can also get the seats that have the microfiber. Then also the whole car is animal free, not in this case for the wool share. If you ask yourself, hey, why would that be like an ethical problem? The thing is, if you go with your own sheep, like with your own dog, to a dog's barber shop and then take, the hair or the wool from it, no problem. But as long as it's industrialized, there's also a lot of suffering in the industry when it comes to wool. Then the panoramic roof here, it's an option. And here you can also apply this shade. It's good for hot days. And this is also still one you can actually really open. There we go. And leave some fresh air in. Interior cockpit overview, it's simple and clean. Soft touch on the dashboard. Then this topography style here with these three-dimensional touchable inlets. Below that is also somewhat soft touch. A vertical screen, steering wheel also with animal-free material. And I like these matte buttons, rear buttons at the steering wheel for cruise control and to control the digital instruments. So not too much high gloss black here, just here. I really like the digital instruments. You can have this map view inside from the native Google Maps, but you can also deactivate it, so you can pick it depending on your liking. And it's just easy. On the right side see the rig operation and so on left side the speed. Infotainment system, here this tile view, and then in the lower part you have the climate unit. Here you can control the vent strength, but when you stay like this, then you can also have the individual, but it's not so easy to control. It's more a car where I leave 22 degrees Celsius out or 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you also have this app view. Now also features YouTube apps. You can also watch YouTube movies, like the real YouTube app then, when you download it to this one. And it also supports Apple CarPlay here, this integration. Just not Android Auto, because they say, hey, we have this native Google and native Android Auto integration anyway. And that's why it's also a good thing here. You have Google Maps natively integrated. That's of course a cool thing. Also with calculations for charging stops and so on. So that's heads off and also quick, super good. And we still have a big manual volume jog here. Lower part, 2 USB-C chargers, this one for connection, the other one for charging only. Well, and then there's an inductive charging pad, but that one actually not cooled. If you have the highest trim here, you also get this crystalline-alike shifting lever, and you maybe heard it, when I put to drive mode, the car also wakes up. Cup holders, adaptive, and so they also hold these bottles tight. Check. Then this armrest here, nice material, underneath more space. I would like to know from you, if you have an XC40, are you using this paper basket, this trash bin, the small one, because it tends to, hold your hand when you go in there, and then you can take the whole thing out, but I don't feel that it would be so useful. Or what do you think? Rear seats here on top of the rear doors, we also have soft touch and structured material. I like that. Overall nice from the build quality, just the lower part hardback again. And then considering it's a short vehicle, it still fits here for 4 tall adults. Not too much space left, but it works. And also as for the headroom, once again the C40 would have a small compromise there, but it's not a large compromise. For XC40 versus C40, you rather decide on the design. And the bench here is kind of upright, but it's still fine, and it feels more spacious than it looks like actually. Now to the trunk or the boot, 450 liters for the XC40. The C40 would be a little bit limited here in height, but that's it actually. Here 2 times suitcase and backpacks, no problem. Width almost a meter or 40 inches, and the length is a little bit less than 90 centimeters or 35 inches. Already folded 2/3 of the seat, 1/3 is the other one. And here underneath you can have this splitter, it's actually quite good, and then have more space underneath. And then here on the right side there's a button that unlocks this towing hook, and it's semi-automatic. As you see, I just touch it here that I don't hands dirty. There we go, and I have to push the button again, and then you have to push it back. What I also want to show you here on a parking lot, when I have the seat belt not on, which you shouldn't do of course, but just want to show you the warning chime there for the seat belt. I think that's one that is not that annoying, but still it is present enough, you know, so I think good move. Volvo XC40 EV or Recharge, we start with an acceleration onto the motorway from 50 kilometers an hour to 100. Let's see, let's go. Plop, that's it. Woo! Yeah, this all-wheel drive model is really quick. The acceleration figure from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, or 0 to 60 miles an hour, is always under 5 seconds here with this all-wheel drive model. Over 7 seconds with the rear-wheel drive only model, if that's available in your market. For example, the US versions are always with the dual motor, and whoo, that's really quick, and it feels even quicker than before because you know, it's still a little bit adrenaline rush here, and that's a Volvo XC40 compact SUV, you know, not like a real sports car or something. So the cool thing is that with this new setup, where the rear-wheel drive motor is either standalone or in the all-wheel drive configuration, it's the stronger one, you're getting the push from the rear before you get the pull from the front, and it just feels better and sportier by that way. Also, when you're just slightly on the throttle, you always feel that push from the rear, and that's just more driving fun. And soon we'll also go up a mountain, dynamic driving. There we will feel this new setup even more. And then of course efficiency, now more efficient, the electric motor itself, and also the front motor can be uncoupled when it is not being needed. That's of course also good for efficiency. Interesting also talking about efficiency as for the recuperation, which is now set all the tone to adaptive recuperation. I can show you. Here in front of us is the C40. You can see the different roofline, more or less the same vehicle, but the CD value is a little bit different, as I told you earlier. 0.32 for the C40, 0.34 for this one. CD value, when it's higher, it's always worse in this case. And so, especially on motorway driving, the C40 will be more efficient. But then with the recuperation, there's not that I would pull the lever back to like a B mode or something. And when I just lift the throttle and there's a car in front of us, I have no cruise control set. Still, the speed is being reduced. Let me approach the vehicle here one more time. And now I go off the throttle. See here, recuperation is active, full recuperation, because there's a car in front of me. Now, the car is gone. It's like being scripted, right? So here now, go off the throttle, no recuperation, the car is just rolling. And that's actually a good thing in a way that you don't have to care about any recuperation modes or something. The car does it on its own, and it's almost like having an adaptive cruise control set. The only disadvantage, some people argue, and I can also follow this argument in a way, it is less predictable. So, for example, to have it even better as for the whole driving feeling for the passenger here, it's sometimes good that you exactly know what the car is doing and that there are no additional G-forces being applied when you don't expect it. So this is definitely pro and contra. For the driver, it's definitely more convenient in a way. I think you can follow this argument. BMW is also tending in this direction. I can of course also set the cruise control. It also has an active cruise control setting. You can switch it, and here, for example, the car is being actively kept in the lane. It's also actually well done. It's a smooth process. The radar sensor, also to enable this new adaptive recuperation, radar sensor has been changed. And now here we said keep this hand on the steering wheel. The radar sensor has been changed and now sees even further. So I heard that the range has been more than doubled, where the radar sensor can also check the vehicles in front of you. That is of course also a good development and even adds more to safety. However, here you can still set these recuperation settings, driving, and then here's an auto. If you put it to off, then it's always just rolling. Or if you put it to on, when you then lift the throttle, then it's always a hard recuperation. Here on the motorway, it's actually reasonably silent, good upright seating position. You feel you have a small compact SUV, yes, but the seating comfort is good, the general seat ergonomics and so on, so you can also imagine longer trips, although it is still a small vehicle. That's of course a good thing then to have. Really nice, these turning indicators, how they are cascading there. That's always a very cool feature. This vehicle here we have also equipped with the optional pixel LED. Yeah, they tend to be really expensive when you add all the options. That's the downside. As for the steering feel here already, it's actually quite good. Not the most natural feeling. It feels a little bit artificial, but it is comfortable to steer. You don't need much force, and you also have a reaction in small degrees angles, so it doesn't deceive you in any way. So I'm overall also happy with the steering feeling. So two very important things now to come, and the one is definitely the efficiency on long term and so on, and the other one is the dynamic driving. That's coming up right now. Now let's move it in an agile way. Also here uphill, wow, has a lot of power reserves. It's almost a performance SUV. I mean, almost, it is a performance SUV acceleration wise. The suspension is also rather stiff, I would say, and especially here the combination with the 20-inch wheels we are driving. When it's a little bit uneven on the road, then it can get bumpy. However, here now, good roads, then it feels really cool and sporty. As I said, the steering lacks a little bit natural feedback, so I don't know exactly what I'm doing, talking on a high level here. So I don't feel one with the steering and the vehicle and the road. It's still nice and fun to drive. So like steering and suspension and body roll wise, you feel it's not laid out to be a performance SUV, but it's still fun to drive. The seats, of course, are also not laid out for performance driving, so they lack a little bit of side support, so that's not the main focus of this vehicle, but it's still nice in a way because it has these compact dimensions and so on. And yeah, accelerating out of the corners here, that's the most favorable part here now with this upgrade, because it's just feeling so much sportier. You remember, when you're getting more power on the front wheels, you rather have understeering. Here, when you have more power at the rear wheels, you rather have oversteering. And yeah, I mean, considering, but it's just, wow, what a panoramic view. It's just really a lot of fun just to steer it around the corners, especially. That's really super, super cool. And then talking about the efficiency figure before I did this fast uphill drive, and we landed at about 18 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers with mixed, some motorway acceleration, some city and so on. That is around 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. That is better than before, and not as good as the Polestar 2 we've just driven with the same technology. Polestar 2 just has a better CD value. Here then it would mean a realistic range of 440 kilometers or 270 miles. And that's definitely a huge increase, because before that it could be well below 400 kilometers or 250 miles. So here two things playing together, a little bit bigger battery and the increased efficiency. So it won't be like this range wonder now suddenly, but definitely a good upgrade that helps you. And the C40 will, as I said, be a little bit more efficient, especially when you drive more motorway and so on. What is this vehicle here? Well, obviously it's a Volvo, but all blacked out here in this black edition. Pretty unusual, but I think looks quite stunning, doesn't it? And it's also technically the first review of the Volvo EX40. Wait a minute, now you think, I have seen this vehicle basically, and you are right, because the Volvo XC40, which is still available as like plug-in hybrids, petrol, mild hybrid and so on, they now switched the all-electric one to EX40. So they switched the naming to be more in line of the EX30, the new small EV, which is 20 centimeters or 8 inches shorter than this one here, or also the all-new big one, the EX90, which will also soon drive for you, will also be built in the US actually. And here the EX40 now, the EV of the XC40, in line with the rest of the naming, and this here in the black edition, and also in the new all-wheel drive performance trim, so the quickest one that is available for this very vehicle. We're going to take a look here. Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. Closed grille in this EV version, but this black scheme is also available for the other engine versions here, for the XC40 then in this case. But here the EX40, same length, also 4 meters 43 or 174 inches, 20-inch wheels in black here in this black edition as well. I think it suits the vehicle very well. We've seen these black editions a lot, like with Audi, BMW, Mercedes and so on. Not so many times with Volvo, but I think it works, doesn't it? Or what do you think? Tell me in the comments. Either a rear-wheel drive version, because like a year ago they switched from a predominantly front-wheel electric version to rear-wheel drive to give it a little bit more agility, better performance and so on. So the rear-wheel drive version, here only the motor, or today the all-wheel drive version, which also has an electric motor in the front as well. Rear PSM, front one asynchronous, so in the rear we have more performance. In the front you don't have so much resistance when it's just rolling, when it's not powered, so that is like a for better efficiency gain overall. The acceleration figures are 7.3 seconds for the rear-wheel drive version or 4.8 seconds for the all-wheel drive, and now with the performance 4.6 seconds, so even quicker. We will also test that for you today. You have a special performance mode in the infotainment system which you have to select, then you get the maximum horsepower output now at 400, a little bit over 440 horsepower. Then towards the rear, typical rear tail lamps like these vertical ones with the Volvo SUVs, and even the Volvo badge here is all blacked out. Top speed 180 kilometers an hour or 112 miles per hour, and the battery size is either at 66 kilowatt hours net or 79 kilowatt hours net. So for the rear-wheel drive version you can go optionally for the bigger battery. With the all-wheel drive versions you always get the bigger battery. Real-world range, concise consumption and so on we will test later and tell you at the end of the review. Recharging 28 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge, here with the DC charging, which has a 150 kilowatt peak. And we're now taking your bets for, is there a frunk or not? Ah, yeah, there's one. Oh, even with a nice felt covering on the inside. Front lamps here, by the way, in the South Hammer LED design, and these are also the pixel lights, so this is the matrix LED technology. Also interesting that here the electric version gets an exclusive update for frequency selective damping. That means when it's normal like straight road or like long waves, it's rather stiff from suspension, but when you have like fast impact like potholes or cobblestones, then the suspension gets a little bit softer, so it's passively adaptive. You cannot switch the driving mode and then it reacts or something. That would be an active adaptive suspension, but let's say passive adaptive. And it's for the EV only. Why? It has added weight, and so they said, hey, we want to keep the same amount of comfort and sportiness at the same time, also for the electric version, which has more weight, and we'll see in the driving part if that works out. This is the Volvo car key, pretty light, and then the door closing sound is, I would say, okay, nothing special, not bad, but awesome. Oh, the rear is actually better. The rear is nice, the front is like so la. And here in the lower part is actually cool. Look at that, how, like it covers all the way in the lower ground, and that's why then the inside should also stay clean. And also talking about the inside of the doors, here all the way felt covering from the inside. I really like that styling here, pretty cool. And also here you have these three-dimensional elements and soft touch then on the top part with the structure, and also then here for your elbow, optional Harman Kardon sound system, or in the higher trims. Steering wheel is also animal-free meanwhile, so they use alternative materials and they feel very good. They're also the same way in the durability. These seats here are the ones with microfiber, also completely animal-free. You have different stylings available. You also, for example, get a high-grade leatherette. Now not only in black, but also in the bright styling now. That is also one of the news. Then it's actually a comfortable seating position. And with 189, 602, you still have some headroom left. This one also equipped with a panoramic roof. It is actually one, first of all, it goes all the way through. Then you have this shade with a slider in the front. There we go. But you can see you still have this split here. And that means that this is also still one you can actually really open. Then this cockpit perspective, really clean. Front part here, soft touch, also with a nice structure. Then you have this topography landscape, that's what it's supposed to be. Glove box here, slides down also yeah, soft enough. That's actually fine. Then you have this vertical screen layout still. A lot of high gloss black around. That's not so good, I feel. But you still have a home button. That's, I think, a good thing. At least have one button. And also manual volume jog with nice clicking sound. However, here the climate unit always has to be done inside the screen right here, but it has a good overview. It has this Google built in, so you have Google Maps built in like this. That works very well. Nice integration, also quick enough. Let me deactivate it for the vent sound. And you still have, for example, Apple CarPlay connection, so you can still do that, or then have here access to the settings, which is also interesting because here in the driving settings you can activate the performance mode. Doing that while driving is not that easy. And then you can also switch here on one pedal driving, off, or auto. Then it only does recuperation when there's a vehicle in front of you. Here, by the way, when I put in an address that is a little bit far away, charging suggested. So this infotainment system also suggests where and when to charge. Middle console is an inductive charging pad, not cooled, so the phone does overheat. 2 USB-C charger, and then you have adaptive cup holders here in the front. That's nice, and this is just like like drive, reverse, P, easy solution. Then this armrest, well attached, more space underneath, and then you have this trash bin right here. You can put in trash like this, and you can also put the whole thing out like this. Driver POV, still manual controls at the steering wheel, physical, I like that. And then here the digital instruments. You have, for example, this map view, but you can also deactivate it, so what you like. And the speed on the left side, right side gear change, that's all I need. You also have this 360 camera view, but here, why is it black? Yeah, because the side door is open, the passenger door. So if Leah closes the passenger door like this, then you see, then we also have this 360 view. Still, it's kind of small. Usually I prefer the rear view camera, so you can really see when you hit something in the rear. Rear seats, the rear door doesn't open too wide, so for installing child seats and so on, but here nice structure and also soft touch on the top area, and also nice felt covering on the inside of the doors, so I like that. The seats themselves, are they somewhat adjustable? Here you can only unlock them, that's it. But the cool thing is here, I'm not sure if you've seen that before here, this one automatically goes down then when you press this one. Here, press this, and then this goes down, then it folds like this. And this is actually a very cool thing then, and like this. Then seating here, there's not too much legroom, but it's also not a long vehicle. But here it still works for 4 tall adults. Also headroom wise, here with 189, 602 still works. And here in the middle part, yeah, it's still somewhat okay, but with the knees it gets a problem. So rather for 4 tall adults. And in the middle part here, there are also some adaptive cup holders. Isofix here for the outside rear seats each, and the front seat not only has a top tether, but also Isofix in the front here on the passenger seat. This black color here, by the way, is called Onyx Black, and you could also get it without the whole black package if that's maybe too much for you. Trunk or boot, let's take a look. Here, 1.40 meters in width, and the length is about 90 centimeters or 35 inches. So that's actually very well usable. You can also see it here with the luggage setup. Let's clean it up for you. And then this is just a protective cover here on the top. Underneath, there's another protective cover. Yeah, and yeah, whatever. You don't have to use it. Underneath, you could also store a charging cable if you don't want to use the trunk for that. And here, this one, you can also put it as like half split or something. Then, yeah, maybe put a backpack in there. That is also possible, like this. For folding the seat, however, you have to go around. You cannot release them from the trunk. There we go. And then it's then like a 1/3, 2/3 split. But here, goes all the way flat. That is actually very well done. Next to this 410-liter trunk or boot, you can also press a button here and then have a towing hook, even in the electric version, and even here in the all-wheel drive electric version, then maximum 1.8 tons. 8 tons. 1.8 tons is the maximum, which is kind of astonishing for a small electric vehicle. And here, to make use of this full cover here, you can extend it here like this, and then it goes all the way through like this, and you can also turn it around actually for this more rugged side. So if you have something like, maybe like for dogs or for equipment with like water sports, here then this rugged side, which is water repellent. Performance. That was 40 to 80 actually. Wow, that went quick. So this performance upgrade indeed makes sense. Yes, so I mean the all-wheel drive version in general has a nice punch, but then with the performance upgrade here even more so. And yeah, you feel that the rear electric motor, it is still a little bit more powerful, but since the front electric motor with the performance upgrade is the one that has the extra boost in comparison to the pure all-wheel drive version, it's also a little bit more balanced in a way, you know, if you know. But then when you are just running straight like here and you're not using so much acceleration, then the front is not being powered. It's just like it's running but without much resistance. So Volvo says it doesn't add more of the consumption and so on. Yeah, we'll see about that later on. But most of the time the rear electric motor is being used. Only if you really punch it through, then also the front one is used, or for example if there is a slip, for example. Yeah, and indeed when I accelerate you feel the performance mode. So when we test it here, standard mode, yeah, it's also very powerful. Once again, performance mode.
A little bit more.
Yeah, it is a little bit more, definitely. I mean, it's powerful in both situations. And maybe you've seen it here from the camera perspective, like the front really lifts. There you see that the suspension is also not set on the stiffest note, actually. This frequency adaptive damping works, by the way. So I think for 20-inch wheels mounted, we have good comfort in here. So I really like that. Yeah, it's only here with the modes. I mean, when I'm in the home menu, to get to the driving mode selection, here, this one in the lower part, driving, then standard or performance, and doing that while driving is not ideal. Most of the time I would just leave it in the standard mode, I think, and that's it. And then recuperation in the lower part, either you lift your foot off the throttle or the accelerator pedal, just rolling, unless you use the brake pedal for the recuperation. Alternatively, you could do it to on, then when you lift your foot off the throttle, there's strong recuperation immediately and one pedal driving feeling, so it also reduces speed until 0. Or go to auto, and then the thing is, when I'm leaving my foot here, it's just rolling, unless there would be a car in front of me, then I would have recuperation. And on the one hand, that's a practical thing. On the other hand, it is less predictable. So as for me, I always like that the car is extremely predictable in what it does, that I know beforehand how the car will react in which situation. And for that, together with the passenger, where you should not apply too much G-force, especially in the electric vehicle, I feel I would rather drive with the off mode, because this comes close to a more smooth driving feeling, and I can finely tune the recuperation than with the brake pedal myself. All of these modes have pros and cons. At the end of the day, it's just a question of which one you prefer. Motorway driving. So for here, around 80 kilometers an hour, though the asphalt is maybe a little bit rough, I feel it's not too silent here on the interior. So there, some of the competitors are definitely more silent. Also here when the car is passing us, it's nice here with the blind spot monitor. There's a great integration right there, system wise, but I feel it's actually quite loud as for the installation. And also then here, assistant systems, you can also activate the active lane keeping assist. There we go. Sometimes I feel the steering movements from the active lane keeping assist are a little bit too hectic. It feels kind of artificial here, there, for example. So also there, you feel that some of the competitors are a little, hold onto the steering wheel, but here also have to apply movement to the steering wheel, so it's not capacitive there at all. So it's okay, I would say, but it's nothing super sophisticated assistance systems wise, let's take it that way. However, in most of the cases, it definitely does the job. What's actually quite cool is that you can easily deactivate the speed limit warning. So if you slightly exceed like only by 1 kilometer, just one click left with the left thumb, speed limit warning turned off, it says here in the infotainment system. So this is very easy to deactivate. So I like that that straight user interface as for that. And By the way, when you hit the one more time, when you hit the turning indicator, then also the blind spot monitor is additionally flashing to give you then the additional warning. So that's actually also quite good. Lane change here at 80 kilometers an hour. Suspension is actually quite firm, therefore you also get a nice sporty feedback as for that. And said earlier, here the electric version of the XC40, which is now the EX40, does receive these frequency selective damping. So that means when everything is straight, or if they are like wide waves, then it still stays rather stiff. But if there's like short frequency impact, so like cobblestones, potholes and so on, then they get a little bit softer to offer you more comfort. They are not adaptive in the sense of that if you change the driving mode, it gets stiffer or softer. That's not how these frequency selective damping works. So it's like a passive adaptive suspension. That's how I call it, but not an active one where you can personally influence that with switching the driving mode or so on. So, but I think it's actually working quite well, and it's a very good upgrade. I feel that especially the electric version gained more suspension comfort with this frequency selective damping update. Consumption today in ideal conditions, and also here in Sweden, rather low speeds. We could score an ideal consumption of around 16 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometer, so like 4 miles per kilowatt hour, and that would give us like closely something to 500 kilometers or 300 miles of real-world range. These are indeed ideal conditions for an electric vehicle, also temperature-wise and so on. If you now think maybe like really colder winter and also higher speed on the motorway, then you rather go towards 400 kilometers or 250 miles. Pricing starts around 50,000 euros or dollars in the base version, and when you then top it up here, Black Edition, all-wheel drive, performance and so on, high spec, you easily get to around 60,000 US dollars or 70,000 euros. That's not cheap at all. So yes, it is an exclusive premium vehicle. In this case then with this styling, with the power upgrades, also with good performance, and now since they have switched into the rear electric motor as a predominant drivetrain, also with some more efficiency gains, that it's not, you know, let's say a little bit more efficient than before. Still, if we compare it, for example, to some other competitors, especially of course from Tesla, they are still way more efficient. Then this one here, of course, is a smaller alternative to a Tesla Model Y. Let's take a look at the smallest and quickest Volvo SUV ever with an extended driving part. And I can tell you, SUV, maybe it is rather a hot hatch, a hot electric hatch. Let's find out more about this one with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go front. Of course, all the way sleek and closed, as we know for the electric vehicles, and the Thor's hammer design for the LED in the front, with a segmented part as well. So a very modern approach. Vapor grey is this exterior color. Once again, I fit very well to it. Here, the wheels, we can already see them at the side, 20-inch, pretty massive, the biggest ones that are available. Will they still deliver comfort? We will find out very soon. Smallest wheels would be, by the way, 18-inch, and here the length is 4 meters 23 or 167 inches. That is actually quite tiny, and if you think about the siblings of this one, the platform siblings, the Zeekr X or the Smart 1, Smart 3, this one here is the smallest of them all. And we can see a rather upright styling here. So you still see Volvo design, definitely. Nice EX30 badge right here. And we have the charging flap here. And that is actually quite interesting because 22 kilowatt AC charging and 150 kilowatt DC charging gives you some 26 minutes from 10 to 80% state of charge. Two battery sizes, either 41 kilowatt hours net together with rear-wheel drive. I think that's just too small, because even the bigger battery at 64 kilowatt hours net is not too large. So I would rather go in for the big battery. And then also for the big battery, you have two versions, rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Acceleration figures, 5.3 seconds for the rear-wheel drive version, 3.6 seconds for the all-wheel drive version. If you have the US models, by the way, minus 0.2 seconds for the 60 miles per hour acceleration figure each, so you can deduct that. Then visually, I think it's a mix of SUV and hot hatch. This SUV quotation, because all the Volvo SUV models, they had this vertical signature, and you find that here, but then a little bit modern interpretation. And what's also interesting here for the rear hatch, there's this small button we can press and then the hatch is opening. I think it's quite visible. First look, you can store some significant luggage in here. Let me quickly clean it up for you. 320 up to 900 liters, that's 11 up to 32 cubic feet. And the width here is a little bit less than 1 meter or 40 inches. And the length, I mean, it's a short vehicle, so some 70 centimeters, 28 inches. If you exactly want to know the dimensions, by the way, look at here. This is actually the full. This is brought to you, sponsored by IKEA. Will the IKEA items fit in this Swedish vehicle, which is built in China, by the way? So I think that's a very nice idea here. I already folded one half of the seat there, 140 meters, 56 inches. And here underneath, by the way, you can store some significant things, also a charging cable, for example. And if you want it all the way flat, you can also do it like this. And then you have the lower floor stored here. I think it's also a nice idea. It's one of the things I often hate about trunk of the vehicles here, about the trunk covers especially. So when you load things in, maybe you do it sometimes quickly, and then here you touch this here, this edge, with your hand, and I already now damaged here something of my skin, because this edge here is so super razor sharp. You really have to pay attention. So yeah, just a warning out there. I think that could have been made better. I think manufacturers shouldn't do it in that way, that it's so sharp, but we see it at many manufacturers, that problem actually. Does it frunk or not? Yes, it does. There's a small one available here. A small charging cable does fit in there, and you have here some silhouette, for example, of an elk and so on. So a little bit more playful in the design. Turning indicators in the front, replace the whole Thor's hammer daytime running light, pretty cool. By the way, I heard that some say that it would be like an evil clown's face in the front. I don't see it, but do you see it? I mean, sometimes it's like when you see it once, then you cannot unsee it again, but yeah, I'm actually fine with the front design. What about you? Quite cool turning indicators in the rear here, dual style. Leah actually just told me that she found it very sweet. It was like, like twinkling eyes or something. So to open the vehicle, Volvo wants you to have your smartphone as the digital key. Alternatively, you get these key cards in these leatherette holders here, for example. And when you have the base version, then you would hold your smartphone or the key card here against the B pillar to open or close the vehicle. And also in the base version, you have to put the key card in the lower left in front of the inductive charging pad to be able to start the vehicle. Or when you have the base digital key installed, then you put your phone right here. But then if you have the mid or the high trim level, you do not need to rely on the digital key with the direct NFC contact, so you do not have to put it then down there. Then actually, with this elaborated digital key, you can put your phone everywhere. And also when you approach the vehicle from the outside, you don't have to do anything, you just open the door, because they use ultra wideband instead of Bluetooth like many other manufacturers. That also has the advantage when you're just passing the car, it doesn't open itself, because the car knows when you're really approaching the vehicle and want to open it. So very strange. First of all, why make it so complicated in this two-step and confuse the customer? And maybe some go for the base version, then always have to put the phone or the key card in front of the inductive charging pad. Yeah, and then of course they say, hey, we save the instruments, we save the head-up display because we make it less complex and so on. But then for the digital phone key, they go for the most complex and most expensive technology there is, and even more expensive and more complex than all the other manufacturers. I don't see any logic there. Do you? Then door closing sound is, I would say, standard, not too bad, not too good. Then here inside of the doors, the top part is soft. Then this is new material here because they pay attention to recycling and sustainability. This is flex material actually. You can get different stylings. I like this inside door handle. That looks really premium and also feels like that. Softer even for your elbows. That's nice. And I also like this gray fabric inset right here. Then the steering wheel with capacitive buttons. That's not my favorite, and also no instruments, no head-up display. Yeah, whereas the siblings, the Zeekr X, for example, and the Smart 1 or 3 do have that. And here, this top part here is not too soft, but also not too hard, something in between. Again, the flex material. Interesting air vent control here, and then this transparent look. A nice EX30 badge at the inside there. And then the seats, different choices are available. This is here the setup with 70% recycled PET bottles and 30% wool. To me, it's not the ideal choice because when you sit on it, actually, like this, it would be no problem. But when you're like in summer, have shorts or maybe like short arms, then this 30% wool share is enough that it feels kind of like scratchy on your skin. So I think it doesn't make sense. They should have gone for just for a normal fabric material. And this here would be my favorite interior trim. It's this denim trim. First of all, you then have a black leatherette in the bottom part and this fabric on the top part without wool share then. It's also softer actually. And on the dashboard, you have actually recycled denim fiber from denim waste. So that's a great idea also to reduce more CO2. I think it's also the best, like more like drawn back conservative look, but really cool in the color combination. And this will be my second favorite choice. Here the bright seats, bright leatherette in the lower part called Nordico, and then the pure fabric, all recycled as well here in the top part. However, in this combination then you get this dashboard, and for some that is too much obvious recycling, you know. So probably then I would stay with this denim look, or what do you think? Also the steering wheel with a vegan material, so Volvo has been doing a lot in that respect, and also, for example, 100% recycling floor mats and so on. So this whole vehicle has 1/4 less of CO2 impact than a model they would have produced before from the whole circle. Seating position. It's not an SUV from a seating position. The XC40, that is also in the EV version available, that is a true SUV. This one, maybe from the outside looks a little bit, but seating-wise, really feels like a hot hatch. To me, comparable also with the steering setup, like a Renault Megane EV, for example, manual up and down, in and out. But the seating comfort is still very decent. Interior cockpit overview, you can decide if you call it clean and minimalistic or cost savings. That is really matter of preference, I would say. It is super clean and kind of like calms your eye. Here, once again, with this flex insert, they also have a structure, so it feels really interesting. Then these vertical air vent controllers and 12.3-inch infotainment with a lot of functionality. So what do you need to know? This one here is the inbuilt Android Automotive with native Google Maps support. That is actually pretty cool. And then you have the temperature control here in the lower part. Yeah, hard to do that while driving, I feel. And here you have this main menu. Apple CarPlay in a wireless way will also follow then soon in 2024, they promise. Here the vehicle controls, one pedal drive or recuperation via the brake pedal. Deactivate the speed limit warning for the EU. This is where you control then the mirrors, like Tesla style, doing it here in the infotainment system. Then important, here the trip info for the consumption of the vehicle, soon more to that. And under settings, here especially the driving settings, where control how firm the steering feel is, for example. And the glove box opens here in the infotainment system, quite spacious, and it's here in the middle part that the driver can also easily access it and doesn't have to reach over. The good thing is that when the vehicle is off or closed, of course you always need the infotainment system to be on to open it, so some kind of safety thing. And one thing you also know from Tesla, Model 3, Model Y, here, the speed is just there in the top part of the infotainment system, that's it. In our small riddle for today, Volvo supplied us here with this microfiber towel for the infotainment system, thank you so much for that. But then again, where is that from? It's not from this vehicle. Yes, it's from one of the other Volvo models with the infotainment system, where you still have the central button that you can, for example, hold it 2 seconds and then you are in this cleaning mode. Yeah, so this is not possible with the button here, so you just clean it like this, and then of course, yeah, some things do happen. Volume control at the steering wheel, by the way, is right here. By the way, this interior trim is called Mist, like the mist from the rain outside, for example, maybe, you know, like moist. The only problem is the German market will probably rename that, because Mist in German is like, you know, like trash or like cow poo. Yeah, so I think they'll come up with another name then for the German configurator or something. We'll follow that. So listen and repeat. The German lesson for today, Mist. Left side inductive charging pad, so it's not 2 inductive charging pads, just one. Then this lower part you can put open, then you have the USB-C charging, but the material below that is, I would say, doubtful. So you see light and shadow here. Some features I love, some I'm not so fond of. Then here, this middle console. The window levers here are at the inside middle console, and the reason for that is they try to reduce complexity. So why do they do that? Also to bring down CO2 output and so on, because then you can have less complexity inside the doors. And of course, you can argue both. Cost savings and also less CO2 in the production. Maybe I would say it's both. Then it's also interesting. Here, this one is soft, but you cannot open this. But here, this is the slider, and you can slide it back actually then in 2 steps like this. And also this cup holder thing, either they are in place or you slide them backward, once again in 2 steps. And then you can just put things more openly in it. But this yellow ground is here, like, I'm not sure what this is supposed to, like, why did they do that? I mean, yeah, also once again, CO2 reduction and so on, but I think they could have found a little bit nicer material there in this case, and then slide it back here. Everything is hidden once again. Front window controls. If you press rear, then you can also control the rear windows here from the front. And headroom with 189 or 6'2", a lot of headroom left. That's cool, so you don't feel caged in this small vehicle. However, fixed panoramic roof without any shade. Yeah, we know they have this filter in the glass. It still will get hotter than with a fixed roof. Rear doors, you have soft touch at the top part actually, and then once again this nice door lever, then the flex material that of course then, as it says, flex uses plant fiber, so this is also going full circle, even to reduce the, even recycling or petroleum impact and so on. So I think a good approach. Then also more recycling material here. I think that's also a choice. You can also live with the visual device, for example, and then once again the fabric insert and so on. And this time I also fit to the interior of the car, don't I? The only thing I don't fit in size-wise, at least with my legs here, there's a problem, but it's also a small vehicle, so you can basically understand that. Headroom-wise, by the way, it's no problem. I do fit here also with tall adults. It's just the legroom that is actually the problem. And you can legally sit here with 3 adults next to each other, but yeah, the question is, does it really fit? In most cases not. Here in the middle console, by the way, once again, the window levers also for the rear windows and 2 more USB-C chargers. And in this middle part, you can put things in and then take the whole thing out, maybe to clean it or something. And we also have, once again, these really sweet elk silhouettes here, and with, Swedish forest and so on. So yeah, why not being a little bit more playful? Acceleration. Plop. That's a 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. I think that works quite well, doesn't it? So we have the all-wheel drive version here, obviously the performance version, and as a comparison with the performance all-wheel drive activated. Woo! Wow. Interesting. That was a difference. So why is that? We have the same max power actually when I pin it down. However, it takes about 0.3 seconds that the clutch in the front motor is engaged. So usually the front motor is not running for efficiency reasons. And when I'm not in the performance mode, it takes 0.3 seconds to activate the front motor then. And here, when I'm in this performance all-wheel drive mode, the front motor is already engaged basically and is directly ready to start. And I mean, this part here was like very, very slightly uphill, but still it felt so much quicker, especially from the get-go, the first few meters. I think we have to compare the time code then from the first acceleration to the second one. Wow, really interesting. And then here, being on the motorway, what's interesting is we've recently driven the Zeekr X, which is a sister model to this one here. And there we also noted that it's generally quite silent, but then here, these side mirrors, they do some wind noise when it's a little bit quicker than here on the motorway. So here now, at about 60 kilometers an hour, it's gone. But when you drive a little bit faster, then you hear that something's not right here from the wind direction there, how the wind is directed alongside the side mirrors. So that's the only thing that is a little bit louder here. But as I said, the general noise here on the motorway is actually quite okay. That's the only thing, basically. So now getting on, let's see about steering. It's really crisp and direct. There's also no dead zone area and so on. So really likable one. It feels really electric and I would say somewhat artificial. So it's not the most natural steering feel, but it's really good and sporty and direct. You can also adjust it a little bit here. Of course, doing that while driving is critical. You always have to take a look at that one, and here driving, so you better set it up when you're stationary. Here, soft or medium. There it is. Yeah, see how distracting it is. That was time interval to vehicle ahead, and I was thinking, oh, I'm in this menu. So here now, steering wheel, soft. It's super light then, medium, a little bit more feedback, but I prefer the firm setting. Do you also prefer it firm? Tell me in the comments. Sorry, I had to go for this one. Then here, I think this is the best setup, because otherwise it is just too soft, but maybe that might be good when parking in and out or so. Being on the motorway, by the way, suspension so far does a good job, and also it doesn't shake up much, and we have 20-inch wheels mounted, and for that, so far, the suspension comfort is decent. We'll test it once again when we have more broken up roads. Let's take it that way. Here, the lane change. We also have the blind spot monitor, very good integration. And here, by the way, when I click this one, I go back to my GPS. It's the native Google Maps GPS. That's, of course, really helpful. Only speed. I see nothing in the head-up display. I see nothing in the instruments, because there are none. And in the sister models, they are available. Okay, so here I always have the speed there. The same fate as in Tesla Model 3 and Tesla Model Y. And some say it's fine, and some say it's not. So what do you think about it? Are you okay that the speed is just there? Tell me in the comments as well. So, you know, there are these third-party stuff for Tesla Model 3 and Tesla Model Y, which add instruments and then add Apple CarPlay on the instruments, and you reach through then to that. And there's a reason for that, because people want to have something, you know, in front of them with the speed. Here, by the way, when I put down the shifting, the gear lever one more time, then I'm in this cruise control mode, which also has the active lane keeping assist. So here, it's keeping me in the lane. And this is, again, a difference to the Zeekr X, because the vehicles that are not like fully developed in Europe, you know, they come over with the new brands from China, usually they have problems with the assistance systems, and they need more work, more time with that. Here, the Volvo, everything works well. All the systems are in place. By the way, this EU regulation that you have, that's warning chime, even if you exceed the speed by 1 kilometer. Here in the driving setting, there's here this speed limit warnings. There you can deactivate it actually. So it's actually a fairly simple way. You could even set it here to a hotkey on the steering wheel. That would also be possible. Interesting is, of course, the consumption figure. We'll tell you more about it when we stop the car again and we drove all the way. But here, driving mainly motorway of 100 kilometers an hour, the first result here is about 20 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. And I did a reset after the first acceleration, not to have an acceleration bias in there. Oh, turning indicator, you see here, you can either tip it, then it stops after a few seconds, or you can really hammer it in, and then it does not stop. It only stops after you deactivate it, basically. So here, then I have to go like this, and then it is deactivated again. So we know from these electric motors, already from the Zeekr X and from the Smart, #1, #3, they are not the most efficient ones. So in this combination that they don't use large battery and also not the most efficient electric motors, so the overall range won't be that large. We'll give you a final result towards the end of the review, but this is a very interesting result already now in between. The overall driving experience is actually quite pleasant. So you have a lot of space here in the front, also above your head. So the overall size of the vehicle does not reflect the size while driving. You don't feel that you would be driving a super small vehicle or something. And here lane change at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. It's actually a lot of fun. So really like the driving experience in that one together with suspension. I would have thought that, especially with the 20-inch wheels, the suspension is less comfortable. So but more we can of course find out when we drive it in a more agile way. So what can you do for better performance, getting out of the corners, for example? You know, the main motor is the rear electric one, because the rear-wheel drive only version also has obviously the rear-wheel drive electric motor. Then this one here predominantly uses that one, and then additionally also the one in the front. But you can here activate, for example, performance all-wheel drive, and then it's just more often that the front one is being used. But let's just try the difference when I'm, for example, here now, hitting the corners. Here once again, nice direct steering, super agile this vehicle, super small, accelerate out. It's very good control of the steering wheel. So it does still feel rear wheel biased, definitely. And yeah, it feels super light. I mean, the electric wheels are never literally light, but the battery is also not too large here, of course. Wow, it's a lot of fun. So the XC40, by the way, the internal competitor, really feels like an SUV. Wow, beautifully accelerates out of the corner. This one here rather feels like a compact hatch, and in this case, more like a hot hatch, indeed. Wow, this beautiful view here also. When I now accelerate with the performance all-wheel drive, let's see if I feel any difference. So here now. Yeah, it's interesting. Also, when I got into the corner, I feel I have a little bit more pull from the front wheels there. And I'm not exactly sure if I like that, actually. So it maybe gives you more performance in a second acceleration sense, but I wouldn't say it's sportier because, yeah, I mean, at some point when you really hit the floor with the pedal, the front wheel motor is activated anyway, but I feel that rear wheel drive only is always a little bit cooler. So yeah, I feel actually a little bit better and sportier when I have that deactivated. And that also shows you, if you think about, hey, how much money I will spend, do I go with the rear wheel drive or with the all-wheel drive? Yeah, I mean, this has impressive performance. You've seen it initially with the acceleration figure. But then again, rear wheel drive only is always a lot of fun. So I would actually just go for the all-wheel drive version if I really need that all-wheel drive in the sense of like winter and so on, and you need the traction. But I would not go for it, for other reasons. And the rear wheel drive is also a lot of fun, and even more fun accelerating out of the corners if you can live with a little bit less of acceleration. Yeah, but in general, as I said, this is definitely hot hatch feeling. So I really love the driving experience, especially here in the agile sense. Yeah, it's really a lot of fun. By the way, one more thing we have to talk about is the recuperation, of course. Yeah, once again, it's changing that while driving is not ideal at all. So when you're here in these vehicle settings, one pedal drive. So when I lift the foot of the throttle, like this, we're rather rolling. Here, of course, going uphill, there's deceleration in one pedal drive. Lift my foot off the throttle. There you can see, then we're coming to a stop kind of quickly. So you can play with that, and it will still regenerate energy to the battery when you hit the brake pedal and so on. So there's nothing wrong with either modes. You just have to decide for yourself which one do you like better. And to me, it's always the more classic approach because it gives less stress actually on the passenger. Any passenger comment? What do you think?
It.
She likes it. Yeah. Any, after these corners you feel like, sick or something, or it's fine? It's fine?
Fine, yeah.
That's always a good sign when you, hit the corners and the passengers are fine, that not too many G-forces are applied and so on. So also speaks for the vehicle. Yeah, really like that driving setting here. So after our test ride, we scored some 18 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers. That's 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. Not the most efficient, but also not dramatically bad. But together with a small battery, even in that bigger battery size here in that vehicle, we can then only land some 350 kilometers or 220 miles of electric range. So this is more for the city purpose and so on. The Zeekr X we scored a little bit worse even, but it also depends on the driving profile. Here we couldn't drive too fast around the Barcelona area and so on. We drove a little bit more than like 100 kilometers, 60 miles an hour on the motorway. That was predominantly in that consumption test. And remember, this has a drag coefficient CD value of 0.28. That's also not too good. So when you drive faster, the consumption will also get worse. The driving experience, however, is so much fun. So to me, it is this city hot hatch thing.
And now for the conclusion for today, which one would I take home, and have you already decided yet? Tell me in the comments. So the most sophisticated ones, definitely the big ones, XC90 and EX90. Here, of course, it depends on if you have a charging infrastructure where you live yet or not and can go all electric. They both come quite close in a way. The EX90 is up to a speed of 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour, one of the most silent vehicles out there at all. Higher Autobahn speeds in Germany, for example, then it gets a little bit louder. The XC90 with the recent facelift also very sophisticated and has a lot of premium interior features which other brands at this moment do not offer. Then again, of course, at that size you would also expect a 6-cylinder engine which is not available at Volvo. So me personally, for the most sophistication, I would probably decide between these two then, and then decide if I want to go electric or not. I love both, actually, definitely. The XC60, still a good all-rounder, definitely, and we expect another update from that pretty soon, which we will also show you then here on our channel. Then it gets even more interesting with the smaller ones. So the Volvo XC40 is price performance wise, and if you consider what space you get on the interior, a little bit better overall than the XC60, I feel, just from a price performance perspective. And then the all-electric version, the EX40, also does a lot of things right, definitely, and you can also go for it. So I think price performance wise, the XC40 or EX40 is, so to speak, the best pick price performance wise. Yes, the EX30 is cheaper, especially in the entry-level version, that's true. However, it also does not feel that much SUV-like, more a little bit like a hot hatch. It drives also exceptionally well, also better than the Geely siblings from the other brands. So there the EX30 is the best one, also better than, for example, the Smart EVs, or also the one from Zeekr, the small one, the Zeekr X. So definitely they had a good hit here with the EX30, but I feel you just get more SUV feeling still with the XC40 and more interior quality. So if I could pick, let's say two, well, probably would be the XC40, or then the electric counterpart, the EX40, or then the big ones, the XC90 or the EX90, then always depending then on the electric choices. At the point where we record the video, I've also heard that some of the very early customers don't even profit from all the functionality yet, so they probably update it later with the software. See if you watch that video at a later stage if this has changed already. And overall, if you push me to really pick one single one, probably at this point it would be the XC90, because it is a little bit more old school, and also this balance between the modern tech with the facelift and still the old school values of Volvo is best represented with the XC90. So these are my 2 cents here for today, and tell me what you think, and check out more comparison reviews.